breaches in May 2024 in relation to matches involving West Ham. While Hammer's Vice Chair Karen Brady says Paquetá is looking forward to drawing a line under the episode, as is everyone at the club. The verdict comes amid rumours he might return to his home country. So could this still be the case? Here's the Sun's reporter Will Pugh.
The one story that hasn't gone away is a move potentially back to Flamengo. He came through the ranks there, and there is the sense and some of the sort of room whisperings coming out of the campus, certainly, that given the toll this has taken on him, that perhaps a journey back home or a period of time back home might be just, for him to recuperate.
Elsewhere, Alexander Isak is currently training with Real Sociedad, trying to get himself back into proper fitness, and probably just to take himself away from Newcastle right now, amid growing talk he's off to Liverpool. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook says his former club will benefit hugely if Isak decides to move.
Of course, he missed their tour of Singapore with a thigh issue, but seemingly is okay to travel to Spain. They sold him for £60 million, and they've got a sell-on clause. So if they do get the £150 million British record fee, that's going to be quite a handsome amount hitting Real Sociedad's bank balance.
It's been a cracking start for Thomas Frank as the new Tottenham boss, a win over their North London rivals. Spurs beat Arsenal 1-0 in a friendly over in Hong Kong, with Sarr securing an absolute worldie. Meanwhile, Victor Gyökeres came off the bench late on, but couldn't really make an impact, and 15-year-old Max Daumann got some minutes as well. Max Verstappen put the rumours to bed. He will be staying at Red Bull next season. The full-time world champion is under contract until 2028, but has been courted by Mercedes and has been considering his options. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft. Alongside me, chief football correspondent for talkSPORT, Alex Crook. Tonight, are you concerned that your club hasn't done enough in this transfer window? West Ham, Everton, Crystal Palace. Frustration growing for each club's manager. But is there really anything to be worried about? Give us a call, 03717 22 3344. Would Manchester United be right to take the risk on Benjamin Sesko? Or should they be looking at Premier League proven Ollie Watkins? We'll have the latest on Sheffield Wednesday after their behind closed doors friendly was cancelled. And from 8 p.m, we'll spend an hour looking ahead to the start of the EFL. So tell us your hope versus your expectation for the season ahead. As fans, we can all dream right now. Text us 81089. Remember, you can call 03717 22 3344. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Right, before we get into Alex Crook, let me just head over to the cricket and join Sam Ellard, because there's a pretty bad-looking injury for England. Tell us more.
Yeah, Hugh, India 184 for 6, but this could be serious for Chris Woakes after a long chase. He dives to stop a boundary, flicks the ball away from the rope and lands awkwardly on his shoulder. He stays on the ground and the physio is quickly by his side. He looked in a great deal of pain out there. As he left the field, he had his left arm wrapped in his sweater. We'll get more details, I'm sure, at the end of the day's play, but he looked in some real discomfort as he sat on the floor after trying to stop the bounce. So fingers crossed it's not as serious as what it looked, but Chris Woakes has left the field. We're playing till 7:30 this evening. Karen Nair's got 43 runs to his name. Washington Sundar unbeaten on 8. India 184 for 6.
Sam, just tell me, as the test match sits at the moment, if Chris Woakes isn't to return, How does that affect England's chances?
It's going to be a massive blow because they're going to be a bowler light, and also as well, what makes this even more of a problem is there's no Ben Stokes as well. Thankfully, England have gone in with the extra seamer, so if there is no Chris Wokes, they've still got Overton, Atkinson and Tongue as their pace attack. But any time really, whoever the bowler is, whatever the situation, any time you lose a bowler, you're at a massive disadvantage. Cricket doesn't have, substitutes, like for like substitutes, so England can't bring in a fast bowler. Thankfully in this innings they've got India 6 down, so aren't too far away from wrapping up this innings. But when India come back out to bat again, if they can bat long and deep and put serious workload on the other 3 seam bowlers, so yeah, it could be a big blow and a big advantage for India.
Okay, Sam Ella, thank you very much indeed. Chris Wokes taken off the pitch with his arm essentially in a sling, made out of his shirt, but it looks like he'll be getting treatment and looks like he could end up missing the rest of this test match for England. We'll be back there with the latest on the play very soon with Sam. Anyway, alongside me, Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, looking smiley. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I was hoping we might be in the new studio today, but we're going to have to wait for that pleasure.
No, we did get a little sneak preview a little bit earlier on.
It was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a seat light. Just putting it out there. It looks beautiful and all that, but I mean, it's only room for 4 up there. So it's going to feel tight, I think. But it's beautiful. It's nice. It's nice. Very nice. I think the fans will be happy with it when they get the chance to see it very soon. I think all of us will be happy once we get the chance to work in there as well. But you're right, we're still in the broom cupboard for tonight. And a pleasure to see you straight from Goodwood into London Bridge for this show. I appreciate you even more for that.
Not so glorious Goodwood today in terms of the weather. The heavens absolutely open. There was thunder and lightning at one stage as well. And it's a shame because it was Ladies' Day, one of the big days of the week, and everybody had to pile inside on top of each other just to escape the downpours. But thankfully, racing went ahead and actually made some money today.
You did. You came with a big smile on your face. Who did the job for you today?
I had a nice little treble of favourites today. So, grateful for Ryan Moore bringing it home on well.
Fantastic. Back to Goodwood tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm on 10 till 1, myself and Perry Groves, and then hopefully I'll be at Goodwood in time for the big race at 3:05.
There you go. Can't miss a day of Goodwood. Alex Crook loves his racing, of course. Loves his football too. So here tonight on Transfer Insiders, we'll be dipping into all of the big stories. One big story today, Lucas Paquetá of West Ham United. Great news for him and his family. Cleared of spot-fixing charges by an independent regulatory commission. That's nearly 2 years after the FA launched that investigation into the West Ham midfielder. The 27-year-old Brazilian was accused of deliberately getting booked in 4 Premier League matches to influence the betting market. He could have faced a lifetime ban from football, so it will be a huge weight off his shoulders. Massive news for him today.
Absolutely, and I think it was Graham Potter, wasn't it, who came out towards the end of last season and said that this had affected Paquetá mentally, as it would any human being. And you mentioned it there, nearly 2 years after the allegations first came to light. I think it's unfair on Paquetá that it's taken this long to reach a verdict. He always maintained his innocence. I've been reporting for a while now that the club felt he would be cleared of these very serious allegations. And I wonder if there could be any legal recompense here, because at the time, 2 years ago, it was pretty much a done deal for Paquetá to join Manchester City, which obviously would have netted West Ham a huge transfer fee, would have netted him a big pay rise. I know Pep Guardiola remains an admirer, and I think West Ham probably are open to offers for Paquetá, so we'll see if City revisit their interest, but I think it should have been dealt with a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And this cloud should not have been allowed to hang over him for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say it had to be investigated, and I'm sure that would be the argument from the FA. They had to look into something like this, because it's something that would have huge ramifications if he had been proven guilty. So they had to go through the course. I don't know why it took a full 2 years. We know that there were reports, of course, that it was being investigated in Brazil as well as a police matter. Maybe that did delay things. Ultimately, it probably has cost him a big move. And at 27 years old, there's still plenty of life left in him. But he also needs to regain his form, because this has clearly knocked him, mentally, psychologically, in terms of the performances he put out. We saw a difference from the smiling, happy, dancing player that we had that took the Premier League by storm to the one that we saw last season. So for West Ham, of course, we hope he's at his best for them. But for him personally, if he could play at that top elite level for a club like Manchester City, I hope he can find his form and, of course, get his place back for Brazil as well, with a World Cup on the horizon. Could be massive for him.
And there's been a bit of talk in Brazil actually about Flamengo maybe coming in for him as well. And I think West Ham might just feel, they need to raise money. And I know we're going to be talking about West Ham as one of those clubs who maybe haven't quite done enough in this window so far. but B, they might feel that maybe a change of scenery after 2 years of despair, really, with these charges hanging over him is best for all concerned.
Do you think a big club will still be in for him?
As I say, I think Pep Guardiola remains an admirer. Interesting to see if Manchester City need a midfielder of that ilk. Obviously, they spent a lot of money in that area already. I think probably a return to Brazil and South America is more likely.
I don't know how the West Ham fans would take that, to be honest. I know. Listen, I know everyone will be disappointed in terms of what he's produced recently because of just how good a player he is on his day, and people haven't seen that too much of late. But if this can be a weight off his shoulders, if he can get back to being himself on the pitch, there's a heck of a player there. And I think West Ham United fans will want to keep him as long as possible, particularly if the club are not investing to bring in top talents otherwise. I mean, right now you'd say he's probably, on his day, West Ham's best player, apart from Jared Bowen, possibly. So you don't want to be losing too many of those, do you?
No, and they've already lost Mohamed Kudus.
Yeah.
And I watched them, albeit in a friendly against Manchester United, but they look short in midfield, particularly. So, yeah, they're one of the clubs who need to do business. As I say, we're going to be talking about them, aren't we, later on, and Palace and David Moyes obviously speaking out against the Everton hierarchy about their lack of signings. I think the issue that West Ham have got, and I include some of those other clubs in that as well, I think the three teams coming up from the Championship, certainly Leeds and Sunderland, who I think could be a dark horse this season, are going to be much more competitive than the teams that went down last year. You're not convinced?
I'm not convinced that a lot of the teams in the Premier League who were in that bottom half picture last year feel under huge pressure to go out and spend big money. I'm not going to say that those teams aren't going to be competitive, but we just know what a big gap it is between the Championship and the Premier League over the last few years, of course.
You can't sleep on that, though. You can't take it for granted.
No, I know that.
Every year the Championship teams are going to be weak.
I don't think clubs are taking it for granted, but I think what they're seeing is they're taking a step back and saying, if we haven't got our squad in place for the first few games of the season before the end of the summer transfer window, how much is it going to cost us? They'll look at the number of points they were above those relegated teams last year and think, we've got a bit of a cushion. We can wait a couple of weeks. We don't have to go early and maybe lose value for the players we want. We can wait until the big clubs are under pressure, needing to sell, needing to loan players. We can probably get a bargain there. And yes, of course, we're going to be assembling our squad late in the window. But if it affects the first 2 or 3 games of the season, is that going to cost us a place in the Premier League? Probably not. The other thing they're thinking is, and I know fans won't want to hear this, but are we going to be in the top 8 picture? Are we actually striving to get into Europe? Even if we go and spend 100 million quid, is that going to be enough for us to go and get a European spot? And they're probably thinking, no, it's not. So let's just go and really consolidate financially, get the best value we can, even if that's on the final hour of the transfer window. Unfortunately, it's going to annoy the fans who are waiting for news on new players.
And it annoys the managers because they put so much stock in pre-season, getting their squad together, getting players up to speed, getting those relationships in the changing room and on the pitch. So I think it's not a coincidence that the likes of Oliver Glasner and David Moyes are speaking out now because they want action now. But you're basically saying there's going to be a lot of teams in the Premier League next year just treading water.
Treading water, yeah. I mean, listen, treading water is not exactly the point that I'm making. I just don't think they're going to be making a massive leap. I don't think they're trying to make a massive leap. There might be a small improvement. I think they'll be happy with that. And I think they'll be happy for most of those clubs, especially the ones that have been lacking financially over the last few years. Yeah, they might be happy with finishing where they finished last season. All fans want improvement, but the board are probably looking at bigger things, saying, well, we've got a new stadium, for example, if you're Everton. We've got big costs elsewhere. We've had debt previously. We're still dealing with the ramifications of the previous owners. This could be a season where we bank 100 million. Might not be very entertaining on the pitch for our fans, and I think that would be their major complaint. But I think if you're running a club prudently, that they're probably going to say, there's no waste here. We can't waste. There will be good players through the door. They might be on loan. They might be for lower fees, but that's only going to happen for those clubs in the closing stages of the window. So annoying for fans, annoying for managers as well, annoying for us who wants to talk about, we'd rather talk about the players coming in instead of the ones who haven't arrived yet. But ultimately, I think for some of those clubs, it's the best thing to do. So we're going to talk about it. Crystal Palace fans, Everton fans, West Ham fans, and any other fans as well. You know, we were talking about it earlier, but even the likes of Brighton, for example, Bournemouth, we're going, well, who have they really signed? Not too many names coming in. I'm sure fans of all those clubs want to make a leap forward, want those players to come through the door. How frustrated are you? And do you think your club is actually content with staying still next season in the Premier League? Give us a call, 03717 223344. You're listening to Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, begambleaware.org. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Hugh Woozencroft. Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, is alongside me. If you've got a question for Crookie about your club, let's test his knowledge on the market at the moment. You can give us a call on 03717 223344. You can also drop us a text on 81089. We're talking about some of the smaller clubs in the league, or rather, smaller clubs is probably the wrong word. Just some of the clubs who maybe finished lower down the league last season.
Some of the lesser lights.
That's a nicer way of putting it. Who really have been hoping that their club would have done more business during this transfer window, and why it hasn't happened as yet. The managers have already made some statements complaining about a lack of activity at the likes of Crystal Palace, Everton, of course, West Ham United as well. All those teams taking a cautious approach in this summer's transfer window. Tight finances, limiting their business, their ability to do major business early on. All three clubs saying they're looking for value, so I don't think I was wrong on that. But do you think PSR is in the back of the minds of these three clubs, Crookie?
I think when it comes to West Ham, yes, because obviously they spent a lot of money this time last year, and actually at the end of the transfer window, I think a lot of us thought they'd done some good business. It obviously hasn't quite worked out, with Nicholas Füllkrug missing more games through injury than really being able to contribute on the pitch. Most of the Declan Rice money they got from Arsenal has been accounted for and spent, is my understanding. So obviously they've got decent money in for Mohamed Kudus, but they spent a lot of that on a new fullback, Juth, coming in from Slavia Prague. Carl Walker-Peters on a free transfer, I think is a good pick-me-up. But yeah, they are concerned, I think, West Ham, when it comes to PSR. Everton obviously have had financial problems for a number of years now, but they've got new owners in the Free King Group who I think have certainly put the club on a more stable footing. And well, Crystal Palace are always cautious in the market. That was obviously one of the complaints that John Textor made actually on this their radio station, when he said that maybe Steve Parish is not as ambitious as he should be. So it's not a huge surprise that they're keeping their powder relatively dry, other than the fact that Oliver Glasner was in demand at the end of last season, and when he decided to stay at Palace, I assumed that he had been promised A, that his best players would not be sold, and as we sit here now, Ezer and Gay is still Crystal Palace players, but B, he would be allowed to replenish the squad, because be it the Conference League or the Europa League, they've got to compete in Europe and domestically next season, Palace, and the squad does look light. Yeah, it does, as Oliver Glasner has pointed to. I also think, though, some of the clubs, the lesser lights, as you mentioned, have looked at some of the big clubs in the Premier League, looked at the sizes of their squad. You look at Liverpool, they need to sell players, and they will sell more players. Chelsea, who obviously are going to have to loan or sell some players just for financial reasons, they're probably going to have to put some players out. Even Manchester United have a number of players that they're not interested in keeping, where you think if you want a loan player, if you want some extra bodies to fill out a squad, players with European experience, you can go to them. This is probably more wishful thinking than anything else, but and take a few players off them. You know, Arsenal even have a lot of players that are probably surplus to requirements. And if you're at a lower end of the Premier League, you're looking at this saying, there's some good value to get, but it's all about timing those deals right, and it's probably just too early at the moment from a financial sense to go in without probably overspending at this stage. I think the final stages of the window is when we're really going to see activity for these clubs. Well, we had a flurry, didn't we, before the Club World Cup, when we had that sort of 10-day bonus window, if you like. Then it went a little bit quiet, and then we saw a bit more business done, and I think we are in this sort of in-between period at the moment where clubs are trying to get deals done, but I think you're right, they're looking for value in the market. I think we will get that late flurry, as we always seem to, and people say, well, why do they leave it so late? And you've hit the nail on the head there, really, because you're talking about the big guns in the Premier League with players they want to get rid of. Well, even if you're a squad player at Manchester United and you drop down and join one of the lesser teams in the Premier League, your wages are still going to shatter that club's pay structure. So there's going to need to be some room for negotiating in terms of the salary.
Unless you wait until those big clubs are desperate and you go, we'll give him 50, 80. You know, by comparison to Man United's maybe paying them 150, 180, you say, well, we'll pay half of it maybe.
Because at the moment, United will be asking for whoever loans Jadon Sancho to pay the bulk of his wages. And as the clock ticks on and as you say, they become more desperate, then maybe there's a little bit more room for negotiation.
We're also asking you throughout the evening, so this is whether you're an EFL club, we're doing an EFL hour after 8 o'clock, or a Premier League side, or any other club for that matter. Hope versus expectation on the eve of the brand new EFL season. Hope versus expectation. Premier League clubs get involved as well. What are your hopes? And going with your head, what are your expectations for your club for the upcoming season? Drop us a text on 81089. Let's get to your calls on 03717 223344. Chris is a Bournemouth fan. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you feeling? Oh, Crookie, straight away. Go on, mate.
Well, I'm a bit concerned at the moment. I mean, we've lost Kirkes to Liverpool. We've lost Houston to Real Madrid. Is Zabani going to go to PSG or Tottenham? And are we going to bring anybody else in, Crookie? Do you know?
Well, I think if you ask Zabani, he would like to go to PSG in particular, and why wouldn't he? They're the European champions. Last time I checked in on that particular deal, the two clubs were some way apart in terms of valuation. I think it's positive for Bournemouth that Zabani has gone out to the States and is obviously playing a full part in the tour, but I wouldn't rule it out, Chris, between now and the end of the window, that if PSG stump up the cash, then maybe Zabani becomes the latest Bournemouth player to leave. It's very difficult if you're a club like Bournemouth to stop your player joining PSG, and I think that's a positive sign that I would take. If you look at the clubs you're selling players to, Dean Howson to Real Madrid, Milos Kerkez to Liverpool, and maybe Zabani to Paris Saint-Germain. These are some of the top clubs in Europe, and I think that shows you how well Bournemouth have recruited in recent years. They will bring players in, I'm sure of that. They need one, if not two, central defenders. But I'm a glasses half full man when it comes to Bournemouth. They've kept Andoni Iraola when there was a real chance at one stage he would go to Tottenham. They've kept Antoine Semenyo, who I know met with both Manchester United and Newcastle, and have tied him down to a new contract. There's been interest from Germany and Bayer Leverkusen in Justin Kluivert, but Bournemouth determined to keep hold of him. Marcus Tavernier has his suitors. So I would focus more on the players you have kept as opposed to the ones that you've lost.
Happy, Chris?
Well, yeah, so I mean, we were linked to a player that was at Lille. I can't remember his name now, but that seems to have fell through as well.
We'll see, Chris. It's still relatively early. Bournemouth are in a decent position based on how the manager performed last year, and I think they'll get some good quality players in, as clearly has just been pointed out they have in the past. Are you panicking already?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think our manager's done a fantastic job, and all credit to Mr. Foley. I mean, he's come in and he's changed it round. I think he's doing an absolutely brilliant job.
And you've got a lovely new training ground as well that Bill Foley has bankrolled, obviously plans for the stadium. I think it's a good time to be a Bournemouth fan, Chris. I mean, you sound like you've been watching the club for a number of years. I remember when they dropped all the way down to League Two. I watched them play against Dagenham and Redbridge 0-0 on a Tuesday night at the Vitality, and Dagenham and Redbridge celebrated like they won the league, and now you're selling players to Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain potentially, so it's not all bad.
Chris, I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. Appreciate your call, Chris, Bournemouth fan, getting us started tonight. Let's squeeze in one more before we break. Peter is a Chelsea fan out in Los Angeles, I think. Thanks for calling us. Peter, you wanted to make a point about whether clubs are treading water at the moment. What do you think?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me on. Love the show. I think you're being generous to West Ham and Everton, and maybe you're being polite, but they're doing nothing. You know, I can't remember the last time I've seen a manager in August say he needs 7 more players to his board. You've got Crystal Palace, Glasner's begging his board not to sell their best players. You got West Ham, they get Paquetá off these charges, and everyone's assuming they're going to sell him. I mean, where's the ambition with these
Peter,
guys?
you know what everyone listening is thinking at the moment? You're a Chelsea fan. They might have bought some players if Chelsea hadn't bought them all. That's what they're probably saying at their radios right now. I mean, you support Chelsea. They've bought, I don't know how many players you've bought, but give someone else a chance.
We're spoiled. We're spoiled for sure. But I will say that Chelsea may sell over $300 million of players this year as well. They're stockpiling the youngsters, and now they're in a sell mode. But I get it. We're spoiled for sure.
I think Chelsea are one of the clubs
I'd just like to see more.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to see more ambition. I mean, I really like those classic mid-table teams, the West Hams, the Evertons, the Palaces. I mean, they're competitive every year. They're always in and around it. And I feel like they don't have ambition this summer.
But don't you see it as a symptom of something greater in football? They're looking at the distribution of money that's going down to the EFL, and they're seeing that those clubs don't really have the money to compete coming into the Premier League. They can't go and spend 250, 300 million. So even to improve their squad to make it Premier League level, it's probably only going to match up against their teams. And even if they go and spend themselves 100 million quid, 150 million quid, they're unlikely to get into that top 6 picture at the moment. So truly, if you were sitting on the board of one of those clubs, how much money would you go and spend?
I hear you, but I think the way I would say it is this: look at what Brighton's done. Look at what Bournemouth's doing. Put an 11 on the field that at least entertains your fans, even if you lose 2-1 or 1-0. Be entertaining. I mean, it just feels like they've lost ambition.
Peter, really appreciate you taking the time to call us, particularly from North America. Good luck with the season. Chelsea fan there, should be an enjoyable one. Got two or three teams that might finish in the top 4 at Chelsea at the moment, so it should be a very enjoyable one for Peter. Keep your calls coming in, 03717 223344. We'll talk Manchester United later on this hour. Tell us how you're feeling, head versus heart ahead of the new season. You can drop us a text on 81081 as well. And up next, we'll get the latest odds with our friends at Ladbroke. Stay with us.
Lucas Paquetá has been cleared of misconduct charges related to alleged breaches of Football Association betting rules. The Brazilian was charged with 4 alleged breaches in May 2024 in relation to matches involving West Ham. While Hammer's vice chair, Karen Brady, says Paquetá is looking forward to drawing a line under the episode, as is everyone at the club. The verdict comes amid rumours he might return to his home country. So could this still be the case? Here's the Sun's reporter, Will Pugh.
The one story that hasn't gone away is a move potentially back to Flamengo. He came through the ranks there, and there is the sense and some of the sort of room whisperings coming out of the campus, certainly, that given the toll this has taken on him, that perhaps a journey back home or a period of time back home might be just, for him to recuperate.
Elsewhere, Alexander Isak is currently training with Real Sociedad, trying to get himself back into proper fitness, and probably just to take himself away from Newcastle right now. Amid growing talk, he's off to Liverpool. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook says his former club will benefit hugely if Isak decides to move.
They sold him for £60 million, and they've got a sell-on clause. So if they do get the £150 million British record fee, that's going to be quite a handsome amount hitting Real Sociedad's bank balance.
For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft alongside Alex Crook. We're going to get back to the transfers very shortly. Keep your calls coming in. 03717 223344. Are you one of those fans who's frustrated that their team hasn't done enough business? We'll talk Manchester United from 1:45 as well. But now it's time to get an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
Delighted to welcome Chris Wood in from Ladbrokes. Good evening, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, lads. How are you?
Very well indeed. Of course, all of these transfers mean one thing, right? Teams improving or getting worse next season. Let's talk about the Premier League. How are things currently sitting in terms of who you think might be lifting the title?
Well, yeah, we've currently got Liverpool in favourites at 7-4. I think their business has been superb. If they get Isak as well, man, this just looks tough for everybody else. Arsenal were next in at 12-5. I'm not quite as convinced by the signings that they've made. Man City are next in at 3-1. Chelsea have obviously had a really good Club World Cup. They're in at 9-1. And then it's Manchester United 33s, Newcastle the same price, Spurs 50-1 and Villa 66-1.
I mean, the Manchester United fans are the best in the country if they've backed Manchester United into fifth favourites for the title.
Listen to it. I'm telling you now, they are currently our biggest loser in the book. I think you could put another zero on that price personally, but yeah, we have laid plenty of money on
another zero.
I mean, the disrespect.
Honestly, sorry.
The same odds as Newcastle to lift the title next year. Come on, man. That's crazy.
Listen,
you think that means that Newcastle are too big then, yeah? I mean, I just cannot see Manchester United going I cannot see Man U going anywhere near the title.
I agree.
This might be me with red tinted spectacles, but I've just got a feeling that United are going to surprise a few people and be a lot better than you expect.
Well, yeah, okay.
Luke Shaw, I mean, trolling the fans this week. I mean, we'll talk about Man United, but saying that we're thinking about the title is unbelievable. No, anyway.
It's not for me, but, stranger things have happened.
I'm surprised Liverpool are nearly 2-1. I think Liverpool, for me, should be
closer
5-4.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of agree. I'm not 100% sure with their back four. I think it's starting to creak a little bit, and obviously losing Trent's quite a big deal. But yeah, I think they're a really strong favourite. If you gave me a tenner, that's where I'd be putting my money.
After 8 o'clock, we'll be looking at League One and League Two on the eve of the new EFL season. Who do you see coming up from those two divisions?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really open in League One. Luton are the favourites there at 100-30. Huddersfield have been really well supported, made some really good signings, but rookie manager, I think they're a bit short at 6-1. Cardiff are next in at 8-1. Not a lot of churn there at all from last season, but they were very poor last year. My team, Plymouth, are in at 9-1. But there's just been so many players lost there. Yeah. Tom Cleverley coming in as a new manager as well. I think he's got a massive job on his hands. If we get near the playoffs, I would take that now. I think that my solid pick there would be Stockport at 9-1. Were really, really good last year. Arguably unlucky not to go up in a much stronger league last year. At 9-1, I think that each way, I think that they look really strong.
Decent bet, yeah, exactly. Luton versus Wimbledon gets us underway in League One tomorrow. I know you mentioned Luton's chances outright. What are their chances tomorrow night live on talkSPORT 2? Yeah,
they're really short tomorrow night. They're 2-1. The draws in at 7-2, and Wimbledon are 5-1 there. I think Luton are going to be the team to beat this year. I think there are still some doubts about them, and Wimbledon I think are slightly underestimated in the market at the moment. But yeah, Luton strong favourites there.
Chris Wood, thank you very much indeed. That was a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes. It's 18 plus. BigGambleAware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
Right, let's get back to your calls on 03717 223344, and we'll go for Mark, Spurs fan, up next. Good evening. How are you?
Evening, guys. How you doing?
Very well indeed. How are you feeling about Tottenham under Thomas Frank?
I was just saying to your the chat that answers with regards to Frank. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen Ange given another chance, but equally, I'm impressed with Frank. I don't have an issue with him. I think he's a good manager. Just obviously, if you're rational about it, yeah, there's still 6 weeks or however long to go to the window closes, but it's just so frustrating. Like, what of our director of football and Levy, whoever else identifies targets, been doing since January. Like, why are we not ready to go in May and June? Why is it scattered that?
Go on, Crookie.
Picking up play.
Well, I was just going to say, I was at Goodwood yesterday with one of the trainers, Warren Greytrex, big Tottenham fan, and he actually sought me out on the champagne lawn to say what is going on at Tottenham, because he shared Mark's frustrations. Obviously, the summer got off to a good start with Mohamed Kudus coming in, and it looked like Morgan Gibbs-White would follow, and I think Tottenham fans would have been quite happy at that point. But now Gibbs-White has decided to stay. I mean, it takes a special kind of club not to be able to properly trigger a release clause, as Tottenham seemingly failed to do. We know they're interested in Christian Norgard, but he decided to join Arsenal instead. There was a little bit of a play for Brian Mbeumo, but I think he was always only ever going to join Manchester United. And they do look a bit light, don't they, Spurs? Especially when you consider that Ange Postecoglou was telling all of us in Bilbao, I had to prioritise the Europa League because we haven't got the squad to compete in the Premier League and in Europe. Well, you're not in the Europa League next season, Mark. You're going into the Champions League, the Big Boys League. And at the moment, I don't think the squad is strong enough.
Yeah, it just seems like whenever we do make a signing, it's an opportunistic one. For example, when we signed Maddison, Leicester had gone down. When we spent money on Richarlison, Everton was struggling. Gibbs-White, we saw an opportunity with the release clause. We never identify players who we think are going to come in and improve us in the position we need. It's just always opportunistic. Paulinho, we've been linked with him. Again, a player's only as good as their most recent game in the most recent season. He may have been good for Fulham 2 years ago and 3 years ago, but he's barely played this year. We never sign players who are on the ascendancy. It's always trying to get out of a tune off of a busted flush.
I think it's slightly harsh on Tottenham. I think it's slightly harsh on Tottenham in that I think up until the end of last season, they were in the top 4 biggest spenders in the Premier League for the previous 5 years, I think it was. And I think if you look
record signing still Dominic Solanke.
I know that, but if you look at the players in the team and the money that's been spent, I don't think it's a fantastic squad, but you can't say Tottenham haven't spent money. Matisse Tell came in not too long ago. Obviously, Kudus has come in this summer. The youngsters last year, okay, Bergvals and Archie Gray, I think, impressed people for such young years. Brennan Johnson hasn't been at the club for that long when you really think about it. You know, I get it, there needs to be some improvement, but even the likes of Kevin Danso were signed during last season, all right? It might not be a world beater, but
these aren't players who are going to kick you out.
I know that, but I don't think, and this is a bit like the clubs that I was talking about not too long ago. Are Tottenham going to finish in the top 4? Truly? And how much money do they need to spend to make that happen? Because we know exactly what they're doing with their wage bill. We know it's one of the lowest. They do spend a lot of money on transfers, but if the wages aren't high, you're not going to attract the best players around. And I don't think currently Tottenham are trying to have the best players in the Premier League, because we know that's players in excess of £200,000 a week, and we know Tottenham aren't that club, and it's how they run the football club.
But you can't just write it off and say we're not going to challenge for the top 4. Therefore, we won't spend any money.
No, I'm not saying that.
Forest proved last season they were knocking on that door right up until the final day.
I think Tottenham will feel that they've got better players. I think they'll feel that it's possible without going and spending 70, 80 million pounds on a new striker or a new centre back or whatever it might be. I think they'll feel like they've spent enough. They've got enough. The players just need to start performing, and they think if they brought in Thomas Frank, they feel like he's the guy that can get that out of the team. I think there'll be 2 or 3 players that come in at Tottenham. I don't think it's going to be massive money. I think it'll be all about squad players and numbers.
I do think they've upgraded the manager. I agree with you. I think Thomas Frank is going to win a lot more Premier League games next season than Ange Postecoglou did. I guess, Mark, if you're being optimistic, top 6, would you take that as we sit here now?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to a mate yesterday, obviously the top 4 has been quite open in recent years, isn't it? Obviously under Poch, we were regularly qualifying. Villa and Newcastle have done well the last few seasons. I think they've both been quiet as well. I agree with you. I think United will naturally do better than they have done. I can see the 4 of us competing for 5th to 9th. But I think there's the danger that akin to sort of 20 years ago where there was the same established top 4. I think business that City, Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea have done, I think where everyone's been getting closer over recent years, I think there is a possibility of those 4 pushing away again.
Good point, Mark.
Fighting for top 5, top 6.
No, I do think you make a good point there, Mark, and I think Spurs will be one of the teams looking to try and break that mould if they possibly can. It's a fresh start, I think, after the departure of Ange Postecoglou. Go ahead, Cricket.
Yeah, just a bit of breaking news for you. We've been speaking about Everton and David Moyes' frustration. They have had a £27 million bid rejected by Southampton for their midfielder Tyler Dibling. So trying to get business done.
You got a bit of a smile on your face there.
Well,
27 million, not going to do it for Tyler Dibley?
Well, at one stage, they're asking for 50 million, Southampton. And they do try and drive a hard bargain when it comes to player departures. But, I mean, I think he's a good player, Tyler Dibley. And I think once, with no disrespect, once a team like Everton get a deal agreed, I think one of those clubs higher up in the food chain, maybe even Tottenham, might just try and hijack it.
Okay, all right. Mark, thank you very much for your call. Let's squeeze in James, a Newcastle United fan. Good evening.
Evening, guys. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you for being with us. You wanted to ask Crookie a question?
Yeah, and also annoyingly agree with him as well. He said
that is annoying.
Earlier, he thought United would do a bit better this year, and annoyingly I agree. I think not having Europe is actually going to give them the platform to really push. But my question for Crookie was, I'm really worried about Newcastle. I'd argue we've got 4 central midfielders on the roster at the moment. I'm trying to ignore the Isaac thing. Who would you sign if you were in the Newcastle boardroom?
Wow, you have put me on the spot there. I think I'll be making a serious play for Ollie Watkins, someone who is on Newcastle's list. Obviously, doesn't necessarily fit the age profile of the type of player that clubs want to spend big money on. But I think if you look at his body of work, not just in the Premier League, but for England, scoring the winner in that European Championship semi-final, I think he's a brilliant pro. He'll be a great lad in the dressing room. And even if Isak stays, I know you're trying to avoid the elephant in the room, I think you still need another centre-forward, because obviously Callum Wilson's left the club. I think he's asking an awful lot of Willa Sula to step up and be one of the top 2 strikers at Newcastle. So I think Watkins would make a lot of sense. I like the Aaron Ramsdale signing, and the reaction from some Newcastle fans has been very similar to when he joined Arsenal. And I remember being on air and having to launch a very staunch defence of that deal. And I think if you ask Arsenal fans now, as much as they appreciate that David Raya probably was an upgrade, they look at what Aaron Ramsdale did in that first season, got them back in the Champions League, not just with what he did on the pitch, but his personality in the dressing room. I think you guys up at St James's Park will quickly grow to love Aaron Ramsdale. I think you need another central defender as well, because unfortunately you can't rely on Sven Botman to stay fit. So I probably would be going back in for Mark Gay, bearing in mind that he's now into the last year of his contract. I don't think relations between the two clubs were brilliant when Paul Mitchell was the sporting director, but now he's gone. Maybe that clears a roadblock. So I would be trying to do what Ruben Amorim is doing at Manchester United and looking for tried and tested Premier League players.
Yeah, there's definitely an angle I want them to take. Like I said, I'm just really worried about the depth. With a minimum of 6 extra games with the Champions League. If any of the...
More than that now, isn't it?
8 games, minimum.
8, sorry. Yeah. 8. If Joelinton, Bruno or blank to his name. If any of the starting 3 go down, you've just got Lewis Miley as backup at the moment, Sean Longstaff now at Leeds, and Joe Willock is injured already. Yeah. So I'm just really worried about the squad depth down the road more than anything.
Yeah. Would you take a punt on Jamie Vardy? Not to play week in, week out, but he showed last season that he can still score goals in the Premier League.
At this point, yes, definitely. Which, if that meant we could spend money elsewhere, like I haven't heard the rumour in quite a while, but Conor Gallagher was mentioned from.
Yeah, that was played down to me by sources close to Gallagher at the time.
Oh, fair enough. But someone like that that's going to cost a fair amount. If that meant bringing Jamie Vardy in because we could then put the money elsewhere just for the year, happily.
I've got to say, and appreciate your call, James. Thank you very much for getting in touch on Newcastle. We'll try in the final hour to come to some of your questions. Everyone is asking about their club. And there's
That's what it's all about.
There's a general theme here, Crookie. There's a lot of fans at Premier League clubs in particular who are underwhelmed so far with just over a month to go.
But you keep reiterating that there is a month of the window left to go, and we are going to see a lot of business done late. So
I think it could be one of those really memorable transfer windows.
I think there's going to be a lot
of business will be done. Yeah, you're right.
So many stories, so many sagas.
We're going to come to Manchester United, the kings of transfer sagas in recent years in the Premier League. We'll be discussing them straight after the break. You're listening to Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, begambleaware.org.
10k for Coldplay.
Yes, Coldplay back at Wembley this summer. We've got a huge VIP prize up for grabs for one lucky listener. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates on August the 22nd. Full hospitality. We'll chuck in 10 grand spending money. It's completely tax-free. Here's how to enter. It is 18 plus. It's for the UK excluding Northern Ireland. And for your chance to win, text the word WIN to 83338 by the 4th of August at 11 p.m. and your name will be in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, and that has to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. It's a TalkSPORT limited promotion run across TalkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. For full terms and conditions, go to talksport.com. They make those reads simpler every week. I think I did all right. Anyway, you're listening to Transfer Insiders on TalkSPORT. Hugh Woozencroft here alongside our football correspondent, Alex Crook, and we are going to talk about our beloved Manchester United. Crookie's got his red phone on the table.
This is always fun.
We'll talk about Benjamin Sesko, shall we? RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko has been made the number one choice of Manchester United to come in as their new striker this summer. Whatever that means. Explain to me, what exactly does that mean?
Well, it basically means that I think their final shortlist was down to 2. The aforementioned Ollie Watkins, tried and trusted in the Premier League, or maybe more of a project signing in Benjamin Sesko. And it's interesting because I think Ruben Amorim at one stage was certainly pushing for Watkins because he wants players who know the division, know English football. I think it's Christopher Vivell, the head of recruitment now at Manchester United, who really is leading the charge for Sesko. And I first started to get whispers yesterday morning that Newcastle, who missed out on 1 or 2 targets already this summer, feared a Manchester United hijack because, of course, Sesko is very high on their list of potential Alexander Isak replacements. I do think Manchester United will have to sell players to finance this deal, the likes of Garnacho and Jadon Sancho, but there has been a delegation, including Matt Hargreaves and the recruitment team, over in Germany in the last 48 hours, speaking to Leipzig, I think speaking to Borussia Dortmund about Jadon Sancho as well. But this is a guy who Arsenal looked at when they signed Victor Gyökeres. It's a guy who's been on Liverpool's list when they were looking at potential forwards. And he's a guy who, whenever I've seen him play for club or country, I've been impressed. So I guess you can say it's another gamble, taking a player from an overseas league, but I think he is a really exciting talent.
What would you prefer? Tried and tested, Ollie Watkins, or someone who has very high ceiling and a lot of potential in RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko?
I'm torn. I can see the argument for both. I think where United have been clever this year, and it's a sort of deviation from what they've done over the last decade or so, is they've taken players who have done it in the Premier League. They scored 44 goals last season combined. Cunha and Bouma, I think, got 35 between them. So immediately that addresses that issue. And I think Watkins would come in and, again, be a positive influence in the dressing room. I don't know enough about Benjamin Sesko's character, but I'm sure United have done those checks. But, yeah, I would probably go for Watkins, but Villa want big money. You're talking in excess of £60 million. I think €75 million is the fee that Leipzig are quoting for Sesko. He's obviously a bit younger and maybe has got a higher ceiling in terms of future value.
I might go for Watkins as well, based on the need for character in that Manchester United changing room. Even we heard Luke Shaw earlier this week talking about toxic atmosphere that had been there in the past. You get a great character in Ollie Watkins. You get a very good professional and someone that puts in a real professional effort every time they're out on the pitch, and also in training, at least if you talk to his managers at all the clubs that he's been at. You know, he's a player that wants to improve, wants to listen to the coach, and of course will be given everything to get into that England squad for next summer as well. Whereas Sesko, okay, it's more about the long term. Right now I think I'd be in the Watkins camp. But what do you think? 03717 22 3344. Let's go to your calls. Nug is on the phone. Have I got that right?
You have, mate, yeah.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Watkins, Sesko, what are your thoughts?
Sesko, not Watkins. I get what you guys are saying, and he's a great player, but he's 30 in December, 30, and they're looking for 60 million. And in terms of tried and tested, we've got Mbeumo, we've got Cunha. I just think Sesko will take the pressure off Højlund if he stays. 50-50 between them, and I think they can do the job between them. Watkins, I know he's going to be trying for that position for the World Cup next year, but he just keeps going back to the same thing. He's 30 years old, and Villa are not budging from 60 million. I mean, I'll be honest with you, at 30 million, I'd still be thinking twice, because there's no resale value in this player. He's going to want a big contract. He's going to want it for 3-4 years, and he's 29, 30 in December. And we've been in this situation before. We've got these players, they're looking for that one final big contract. And I just think he's past that prime stage. I really don't think...
But you do know what you're getting, don't you?
Yeah,
you bring a young player in from another league, it's much more of a risk. And the problem is Manchester United have made a lot of mistakes in that regard. Can they afford to do that one more time?
Højlund, I was never keen on Højlund. I just thought that a player who's at Atalanta, so he scored 9 goals...
But can Manchester United afford to make that kind of mistake again, do you think?
I think if they sell the players that they need to sell, I think there's scope there. I don't think Šeško is a mistake.
No, I don't either.
Over the year, and I think that if they can get the money... I mean, Rashford, 30 million euros buyout is ridiculous for a player like that. And, you know, it's just like... I mean, look at Rashford, his age, where he's played and where he is now, and we're selling him for 30 million euros. It's £26 million.
Well, you're assuming that he does well enough at Barcelona for them to want to sign him permanently.
Well, if he doesn't do well at Barcelona, he might as well just go on the scrap heap then. I mean, he's been at Villa and he did decent at Villa.
He did okay for a couple of games. He wasn't a world beater.
No, obviously. I mean, but if you look at it on the world beater stage, I mean, look at what Anthony did at United and then look what he did at Betis. I mean, he went from mediocre to practically world beater at one stage. He was like 9 games and 9 assists and goals and all that. So I think if they sell the players that they need to sell, I think getting Šeško would be a great move.
No, appreciate your call. Sorry to cut you off there. Really appreciate your call, but just want to squeeze in one more quick call. Richard is an Aston Villa fan. Richard, you got about a minute. Give us a go.
Yeah, all I want to say is when you listen to radio, you listen to United fans. It's like Villa are just a nothing club. We've been in Europe for 3 years running. United are 16th. They put in a loan bid for Emi Martinez. Well, then you're coming in for Watkins now. Why would Watkins want to go to United? We're on the road. We're a consistent road. United, I don't even know if they're on the road.
Are you going to give Ollie Watkins 5 more years?
Not even that, Richard. Richard, come on. 15th, by the way, not 16th. Are you telling me that if a bid gets accepted, Ollie Watkins is going to turn down Manchester United to stay at Aston Villa? It's not going to happen.
You could offer him more money, but what else can you offer him? I mean, you're
still Manchester United. Still Manchester United.
Ruben Amorim, he's not even proven. We've got Unai Emery, 13 trophies.
2-0 last game of the season. Just you might remember that one. Emery got one over Emery, didn't he?
The ref helped you.
We've seen already this summer that the Manchester United are still a big draw. Brian Mbeumo could have gone to Newcastle and played Champions League football. He wanted Manchester United. Matheus Cunha could have joined, a better club in terms of league position. He wanted Manchester United. Like it or not, they still have that draw, Richard.
You're shucking Cunha at me, who can't even stay on the pitch for 38 games a year.
He's only ever been sent off once in his career, actually, Matheus Cunha.
I think I'd rather play at Preston North End than Wolves.
Richard, I appreciate your call. I thought it was going to be a nice one as well, but he just came on to hammer us crooky. Thank you very much for getting in touch. Keep the calls coming in. 03717 223344. We will be talking more transfers a little bit later on. We'll be looking ahead to the upcoming EFL season. So EFL fans, tell us how you're feeling about your team over the next campaign. Head versus heart, hope versus expectation. What do you think will happen? Get those texts in on 81089. We'll see you soon.
Paquetá has been cleared of misconduct charges related to alleged breaches of Football Association betting rules. The Brazilian was charged with 4 alleged breaches in May 2024 in relation to matches involving West Ham. While Hammer's vice chair, Karen Brady, says Paquetá is looking forward to drawing a line under the episode, as is everyone at the club. The verdict comes amid rumours he might return to his home country. So, could this still be the case? Here's the Sun's reporter, Will Pugh.
The one story that hasn't gone away is a move potentially back to Flamengo. He came through the ranks there, and there is the sense and some of the sort of room whisperings coming out of the campus, certainly, that given the toll this has taken on him, that perhaps a journey back home or a period of time back home might be just, for him to recuperate.
Elsewhere, Alexander Isak is currently training with Real Sociedad, trying to get himself back into proper fitness, and probably just to take himself away from Newcastle right now, amid growing talk he's off to Liverpool. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook says his former club will benefit hugely if Isak decides to move.
Of course, he missed their tour of Singapore with a thigh issue, but seemingly is okay to travel to Spain. They sold him for £60 million, and they've got a sell-on clause. So if they do get the £150 million British record fee, that's going to be quite a handsome amount hitting Real Sociedad's bank balance.
It's been a cracking start for Thomas Frank as the new Tottenham boss, a win over their North London rivals. Spurs beat Arsenal 1-0 in a friendly over in Hong Kong, with Saar securing an absolute worldie. Meanwhile, Victor Gyökeres came off the bench late on, but couldn't really make an impact, and 15-year-old Max Daumann got some minutes as well. Max Verstappen put the rumours to bed. He will be staying at Red Bull next season. The full-time world champion is under contract until 2028, but has been courted by Mercedes and has been considering his options. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Oh, yes, thank you very much for getting involved on the first hour of Transfer Insiders. Hugh, Woozencroft and Alex Crook are with you. This hour, we're going to look ahead to the start of the EFL season, which kicks off live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2 tomorrow night at Kenilworth Road. EFL fans, please tell me, what are you most excited about for the season ahead? Head versus heart, what do you think will happen? We know that things are going to be very tough for Sheffield Wednesday fans, not feeling gleeful at all. Owls fans, we are going to bring you up to speed this hour with the latest from the club. Another set of payments, it seems, have been missed. Give us a call, 03717 223344. If you'd like to talk about your team this hour, we'll also have all the latest from talksport.com. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. And more breaking news to bring you on talkSPORT. We got a little bit of a line regarding Everton earlier from our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, who's alongside me. And he's got some more nuggets of joy to bring us in the transfer window.
I have indeed, yeah. Just a reminder of that line from earlier. Everton, we understand, have had a £27 million bid for Southampton midfielder Tyler Dibbling, rejected. We were talking about West Ham's lack of transfer activity at the top of the programme as well. They've now made a formal approach, I'm told, to Leicester for their goalkeeper, Mads Hermansen. There is a link there because West Ham's new goalkeeping coach worked with Hermansen at Bromby, so it looks like he is their top target, I think, to come in and be number one. They're not convinced by Alphonse Areola. Wasn't brilliant, was he, in that first friendly against Manchester United. And João Paulinho, a name from Premier League past, I'm told he's willing to join Tottenham. Personal terms won't be an issue if Tottenham could agree a fee with Bayern Munich for João Paulinho. He was someone we were talking about with the Spurs fans earlier.
João Paulinho would be good for Tottenham if he can rekindle any of the form he had when he was at Fulham. I don't know if he's still got it in his legs. I think he's north of 30 now, is he?
Yeah, that was an issue at the time. We were asking why some of the big clubs in the Premier League weren't willing to sign him. It was because he was the wrong side of 29, and as that caller said earlier, he's not pulled up too many trees in Germany, but proven in the Premier League. I think they want to upgrade Yves Bissouma. I think he's been told he could leave, and I would say that Paulinho probably is an upgrade.
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. And then, of course, you got to talk about the goalkeeper situation at West Ham. Seems a no-brainer. They need to improve in that department. Would Mads Hermansen be good enough, do you think? He's been impressive?
Yeah, I think he comes with a lot of credit from, a pretty disastrous season as far as Leicester are concerned. He's probably the one player that they could sell for decent money, Leicester, so I don't think they're going to be holding him back. They've signed Asmir Begovic to come in and bolster the goalkeeping department. I think that probably would be an upgrade. They've looked at Suzuki, very sought-after goalkeeper at Parma as well, Japanese international, but I think he's got his sights set on bigger. So this might be a good deal for West Ham.
And the phone continues to ring.
Yeah,
absolutely. Alex Crook as well. So maybe we'll have more breaking news for you on the Transfer Insiders very, very shortly. But we are this hour going to talk about the start of the EFL season. It all kicks off tomorrow night at Kenilworth Road, live on talkSPORT 2 as Luton welcome AFC Wimbledon in League One. Before we get to the opening game of the season, let's give you some of the talkSPORT pundits and their predictions for the new season.
My League One winners for this season are going to be Luton Town. Think about it. They've got parachute payments from the Premier League for another season, even though they're down in League One after successive relegations. They've got so much budget to play with.
And it's tucked in by Corey Woodrow for Luton Town.
But maybe just keep your eye on Huddersfield Town, who've made a lot of changes over the summer.
I think the League One winners will be Huddersfield Town. They're managed by Lee Grant. He's a highly rated young coach who'll be really hungry to succeed. He's spent all summer rebuilding. Everywhere you look, they've got real strength and depth, and a lot of these guys really should be playing in the Championship.
And Huddersfield Town have surely won this game now.
My League One winners are going to be Luton Town. I think Matt Bloomfield showed his adaptability. He's now had a pre-season. He's brought in some players that I think he's recruited really well.
Can he tease that across? He can! And it's turned in by Jones! All alone at the back post, and Luton strike first.
My League One winners will be Luton Town. Covered a couple of their games at the back end of last season. I just thought they performed really well, and I played with the manager Matt Bloomfield, real student of the game, and I just feel with him in charge once again they'll have a successful campaign.
League One is incredibly difficult to predict. There are a host of big clubs in that division. The difference between them is very, very tight indeed. In terms of quality, in terms of managers, there's an argument for and against so many teams. But ultimately, when you look at the table at the end of the season, we know it will come down to the width of a piece of paper pretty much between who gets in those playoffs, who gets into automatic promotion, and it will definitely go down to the last few games. And probably more than any other league in the top four divisions, you look at it and there's probably 10 teams that you could conceivably say there's a good argument for them being promoted from the division, and that will make it incredibly tough.
Yeah, it will, and as you said, it might come down to the men in the dugout. I'm really intrigued to see how Lee Grant gets on at Huddersfield, who've obviously spent big money in this summer window. All the things I hear about Lee Grant from people who work with him, people who played with him, people who know him, are very positive, but obviously there's a big difference between being a coach. I think he was striker coach, actually, at Ipswich, being an ex-goalkeeper. That was sort of a revolutionary move that Kieran McKenna made. But to go from being that to a manager in your own right is not necessarily an easy transition. Matt Bloomfield obviously is proven in League One with Wickham. Didn't work out at all for him when he went to Luton. They ended up being relegated. He might argue maybe the damage was already done and it was a position that he couldn't rectify. So I think he's got a little bit to prove now, his reputation having suffered a bit of a knock. But you're right, there's so many teams that you can make a case for. Wickham themselves, I think, have done some decent business and are paying decent wages this summer as well.
Yeah, it will be a tough league. I think for Lee Grant, I said the moment he took over the job, it's high pressure at Huddersfield, who obviously didn't want to stay down last season, wanted to come straight back up into the Championship. That wasn't to be. He's been brought in. His job is going to be getting them out of that division. Now they've gone and supported him very strongly in the transfer market. He does have a very good squad. You just think, for a first job, to have to get out of a division. We've seen it done very, very recently, of course, with Birmingham City last year and Chris Davis, first job, got them out of the division in style. They had a massive budget.
I was going to say, if you quit to spend
yeah,
Chris
exactly.
Davis.
Exactly. But Chris Davis, excuse me, but he managed to do it, right?
Yeah.
With all that pressure on him, he managed to do it. I get it. He had a very good squad, but his team played good football, got out of the division with ease. I think fans might look at that and say, well, go on then, Lee Grant. You've had all these players brought in. Go and do it. And if he doesn't, suddenly the pressure of just needing to get out of the league doubles because the fans are on your back saying, hold a minute, why aren't we firstly top of the table? And why aren't we top of the table playing in style, scoring 5s and 6s every week? I just wonder, like you said a minute ago, the difference between being a coach and a first-team manager. When that pressure comes, what kind of character is Lee Grant?
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. But I think that's the only thing that I could point to say the question mark over him.
I think he's a good character, but as you say, he's never had to deal with that pressure before, not just from the media, but from the supporters. And there was a bit of scepticism when he was appointed because there was talk that David Wagner maybe would be coming back to the club, and I think a lot of Huddersfield fans would have preferred to go down that route. So I think he's got to get off to a good start. Just I haven't been backed in the market. If they don't start the season well, then those critics will only get louder.
Cardiff City. Loud critics there already.
But, I don't know what to expect from Cardiff. I mean,
a lot of players have stayed.
Yeah, but the managerial search was a bit of a circus at times. They wanted Aaron Ramsey, I think, to take the job as manager, but he wanted to carry on playing with the World Cup next summer with Wales in mind. Obviously, he's gone over to Mexico. It was quite a long recruitment process for a new manager. They've again opted for someone who was a coach at Leicester. I know he's been a manager in his own right, Brian Barry Murphy, but again, there'll be a lot of Cardiff fans waiting to pounce on him and the owner, Vincent Tan, if it doesn't work out. So they're another team I think have to start the season well. It's been a disaster, isn't it, for Cardiff in recent seasons?
Their issue, of course, is they can't go and get a raft of brand new signings, and they haven't done that. So again, a lot of players would have to stay. Some have gone. The kind of core of their squad is roughly there. I think it will be difficult for them, but they are a big football club with decent support, and it will be a difficult away day. Should be a difficult away day going to Cardiff City in that division.
It just feels like they've been on quite a negative spiral, Cardiff, and I think one of the first things that Brian Barry Murphy's got to do is bring the feel-good factor back to what can be quite an intimidating stadium to play in, but it's not been particularly difficult for opposition teams in recent years.
Let's hear from a friend of talkSPORT, the new CEO at Reading FC. That is the former Wycombe captain, Joe Jacobson. He's given us an exclusive insight on how Reading plans to navigate through the transfer window this summer. Have a listen.
Yeah, we have to adapt all the time. We've got an owner that's willing to put money into the club and has proved that already with some of the signings we've made and some of the wages we've offered out. But always room to improve, and we're light in some areas, but we're working really, really hard to be able to bring in frees and loans. We've offered transfers out for players as well. So we're just trying to fit those last pieces of the puzzle together.
What kind of side are you trying to build? What characteristics have you been looking for in the market, or more does it boil down to who's available at a lower price where the value is?
Look, you obviously have to have a budget to try and stick to, which changes and fluctuates throughout the summer. Obviously, you've got the SCMP rules, which are very strict, and I think because of the takeover and because of the recent history with the football club, the EFL are quite strict with us. We're constant contact with them about what we're doing. Every time we sign a player or offer a contract out, we kind of have to send it to them. At the start, we were having to get approval. That's now gone, but we still have to keep them in the loop with everything we're doing. So with the squad, I think, over the last couple of seasons, they've had a really young squad, and we want to add a bit more experience, a bit more of players with League One experience who have been in this division and done well before. Obviously, they're more expensive than a young player, but we know exactly what we need and what we're looking for. And Noel's got a type of character that he wants as well. You have to want to run for him, run for the football club. And, we've spoken to some players who, are buying into that straight away, and you can tell that. And you've got some that maybe aren't as such. And then you think, are they really right players for us? So there's a lot of due diligence that goes into signing a player, not just on wages or fees. It's about the type of character they are as well. And, we want to get a squad together that all wants to fight, all wants to work hard for each other and create this culture that Ruben Sellis before and Noel as well has continued to create here.
So that was Joe Jacobson, the new Reading CEO or co-CEO, of course, the former Wycombe captain, and what is happening at the club. They are another one of the teams that will be hoping to do very well, having just missed out on the playoffs last season. We just having a chat during that interview, weren't we? Just around how difficult League One will be on the whole.
Well, I thought you were maybe over-egging the pudding when you said there could be 10 teams challenging for promotion. Then when you start to list the teams, you chuck in Stockport, Bolton. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, a former manager, who's been quite impressed with what Bolton are doing and their project. Plymouth under Tom Cleverley, who I think was maybe harshly treated by Watford at the end. Reading there, obviously we heard from Joe Jacobson, and
haven't mentioned Rotherham, who are a big team in that division still, a lot of fans as well.
Blackpool with Steve
Barnsley
Bruce.
Always in that picture.
Yeah.
Peterborough, if it clicks, we know what they can do.
Well, they've been busy, haven't they, this summer, Peterborough?
So, I mean, it will be an incredible division, League One, and we want to give you a preview and make predictions and stuff like that. But I think we all know just how tough it will be. We know it's going to be entertaining, and we will have you covered here on talkSPORT throughout the season. Of course, your home of the EFL. Let us know your predictions, whatever team you support in the EFL. What are you hoping to happen? What do you really expect to happen for your club? And also, as this is the Transfer Insiders, what more does your club need to do in the market? Drop us a text on 81089. We'll be talking Sheffield Wednesday, an update on what's going on at the club straight after this. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, which is 18+, begambleaware.org. Hugh, Woozencroft and Alex Crook are with you. And Sheffield Wednesday fans, we need to give you a moment here. Things have been very, very difficult for the club. It has been a summer of chaos. There is some positive news, I guess. The club does have a new man in charge. Henrik Pedersen confirmed as a new manager, stepping up from his role as assistant to Danny Roll, who officially departed by mutual consent earlier this week. But let's get some more on what has been going on today, with news that this weekend's behind the closed doors friendly against Burnley has been cancelled. Joe Cran, Sheffield Wednesday reporter for The Star, joins us live here on talkSPORT. Good evening, Joe.
Hi, how you doing?
Where should we start today, my friend? Which bit of news from today do you think is most pertinent? Because there's also been some news around payments not being made for all of the playing staff.
Yeah, I mean, the current situation at Sheffield Wednesday is one of ongoing strife. It feels like every day we're writing something worse than the last. Every time you feel like you've hit like rock bottom and you think, right, well, at least it's only up from here, something else happens. I think it's 4 out of the last 5 months now that there's been problems with payments. Wednesday players, Wednesday staff, even the scholars were told this week that they weren't going to get paid on time. Thankfully, they didn't end up getting paid today. But yeah, I mean, in terms of where you start, take your pick. It started in the morning with Henrik Pedersen being announced. That was, we reported last night that was done. So, that was no shock. But obviously, it's payday, and every payday now at Sheffield Wednesday comes with question marks and concerns and anxieties that follow after staff and players and everybody has sent these letters saying, we might not be able to fulfil your payments this month. And yeah, that is, like I say, that's just like a running thing now at the end of every month. Sheffield Wednesday are in dire straits, and something's got to give at some point.
Joe, I've read a lot of your work over the course of the summer, and I think you've done a brilliant job in keeping Sheffield Wednesday fans fully up to date with exactly what's going on there. It saddens me to see what is happening to a once great institution, really, one of the grand old clubs of English football. Have you reached out to the EFL at all? Because we're told that they're, quote, deeply concerned about the situation. Is it not about time that the EFL come out and comment publicly on what is going on at Sheffield Wednesday and why one owner seemingly is running a great football club into the ground?
Yeah, look, I understand the difficulties with the EFL and what they can and can't do. I did a story a little earlier this evening that they are considering withholding payments now in order to pay the creditors, the people that they owe, the money is owed to. So, Wednesday are still under embargo for transfer fees owed to other clubs. They obviously owe staff, they owe players. There's been HMRC problems in the past. And I think that if the EFL do step forward and start withholding, whether it's TV revenue or whatever it might be, and start effectively doling that out themselves, that would be a real step forward. There's obviously, the club has been charged, the chairman has been charged. We're still waiting to hear about that independent commission and what's going to come from that. I think at this point it feels like a points deduction is inevitable, I would say. How much it'll be, we don't know. But it feels like Wednesday are bottoming out. And obviously I saw the news about Morecambe tonight, and it's terrifying. Like, football has an ownership problem at the moment, and the fact that this is happening so regularly with so many clubs is really, really scary. And I think that yes, they are businesses at the end of the day, but they're more than that. They are cornerstones of communities, and they are huge parts of people's lives and people's families. And I think at some point something's got to give. And then, look, the independent regulator that's come in, obviously the hope is that at some point they might be able to help Sheffield Wednesday. It might be too soon after they've come in, but them being established, I think, is a really big thing for English football.
I know that other well-known Sheffield Wednesday fans are trying to make an appeal now to try and get some help. You mentioned the independent regulator. Right now, they might not be able to do what they would need to do to help Sheffield Wednesday, but there are some other big figures who possibly can.
Yeah, look, I think Wednesday are blessed with quite a well-known fan base. I think, you look at some of the famous faces that are Wednesdayites. I put a video out tonight of Tommy Craig, who was on Coronation Street, and quite a few other TV shows. So obviously Michael Vaughan, the Arctic Monkeys. There's a number of Wednesdayites who could potentially step up and make themselves heard. But ultimately, and the most concerning thing around Sheffield Wednesday is that ultimately it's down to one guy. Dejphon Chansiri has the ability to help this football club by selling it, by setting it up with people who can look after it properly, because he clearly cannot anymore. And until he decides what he's going to do, or is forced to make a decision, I suppose, at some point, then Sheffield Wednesday will continue in this mire that they currently find themselves in. And obviously we're at a point now where I think Wednesday have 10 players over the age of 21 in their squad. There's concerns that could be less if other players decide to hand in their notices and walk away, like we saw with Josh Windass and Michael Smith. We don't know where people are at on that in terms of payments. We are of the understanding that some players were paid tonight, not all. Whether that was done intentionally to try and stop people from having the chance to walk away, we'll have to wait and see. But this is the constant struggle that we're dealing with. It feels like we're constantly walking through walking unprecedented roads, and having it all happen at once is terrifying.
And it's all very sinister as well when you talk about certain players being paid and other players not. Have you got a line of communication to Chansiri? Have you got a line of communication to any of the hierarchy at Hillsborough?
No, the chairman is notoriously difficult to sort of get in contact with. We've not been given any sort of guidance on where things are at. We had a statement from the chairman a little while ago where he was talking about one of the guys who was trying to buy the club, and he was talking about how it was unprofessional and all this kind of thing. But yeah, no, we've not really heard anything since from the chairman. I think that is one of the main bones of contention from Wednesday fans, is that they haven't heard from the man who's at the top of this. And ultimately, when it's a one-man show, nobody else really matters in terms of who you can speak to. It's not like other clubs where you have sporting directors or CEOs who can act as a sort of conduit. At Sheffield Wednesday, there is Dejphon Chansiri and Dejphon Chansiri alone.
And obviously, the reason we contact you tonight is because the players have decided they're not going to play in a friendly against Burnley. Is there any fear that the first game of the season against Leicester could be in doubt?
I think there's definitely some fear. I think from the players' perspective, they maybe wanted to show the fans and show everybody else that they weren't happy with what was going on. I know that when they were informed this week that they probably weren't going to get their wages, there was a lot of anger in the room and a lot of frustration. And I think it was at that point that they started to talk about this friendly being, untenable. So we'll have to wait and see on the Leicester game. I think it's obviously a little bit more difficult when it's a competitive fixture. It's not quite the same as if it was just a behind closed doors friendly.
Okay, Joe Cran, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Sheffield Wednesday reporter for the Star newspaper, who I'm sure are going to keep you right up to date with all of the goings on at the club, as we are here, of course, on talkSPORT and at talkSPORT.com. Up next, we're going to head back to our look ahead to the start of the EFL season. We'll be speaking to a Barnet fan as they're back in the EFL. That's next. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Hugh Woozencroft and talkSPORT's football correspondent Alex Crook are with you. Looking ahead to the start of the EFL season. At Q2, we're going to have some of the stories from talksport.com pertaining to the EFL. Before we get there, we're going to take a quick look at League 2, which also starts this weekend. And we also got some of the predictions in that division from our talkSPORT pundits.
My League 2 winners in the EFL this season are MK Dons. I think Paul Warne, having gone in as manager, is a really smart cookie in terms of his coaching ability, and he's won promotions from League 1 with Rotherham and Derby County, let's not forget.
It's all over. Rotherham are back in the Championship.
My selection for League 2 winners are MK Dons. Paul Warne is an absolute master at getting promotion from League 1, so why can't he go and do it at the first attempt in the division below?
The League 2 winners will be MK Dons, and that's purely based on the manager, Paul Warne. With a good squad, which he will have to work with this season, I feel this could be his 5th promotion.
And the full-time whistle goes. It's the Championship for Paul Warne and Derby County next season.
My League 2 winners are going to be MK Dons. Callum Patterson walking through the door, and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang. You know, Aaron Collins, for me, what a coup that is.
And what a stunning shot that's found the back of the net from Aaron Collins.
19 goals in all competitions last season for Bolton. He will kick on again, definitely at that level, League 2. So for me, that's the one that everyone's going to be chasing.
I mean, we spoke about League 1 a little bit earlier and just how difficult it is going to be to call. I think it's very similar in League 2 as well. Lots being made around MK Dons and the arrival of Paul Warne. And yes, things can change very quickly for clubs, but they did finish in 19th last season. So our pundits making a prediction that they're going to win the title shows you either how drastically things can change in a short space of time or just how amazing a coach Paul Warne is. One of those two. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're heavy favourites. Just looking at the odds here, 3-1 in some places. MK Dons, Chesterfield second favourites at 7-1. So there's a lot of confidence. I think mainly because of that Paul Warne appointment. But there'll be somebody who surprised you. I mean, Swindon had a brilliant end to the season under Ian Holloway. I've not kept a keen eye on what they've done in the market, but if they can replicate that form, get the feel-good factor back at the county ground, they could be dark horses potentially.
Yeah, I feel like, listen, we were talking about Sheffield Wednesday a few moments ago, the difficulties there. We're talking about Morecambe. I'm sure lots of fans have seen post tonight that there's a chance that the club could fold by the end of the week.
Yeah.
You know, very, very difficult times if you're a Morecambe fan who, of course, relegated from League 2 last season. A lot of these teams will actually be looking at the bigger picture. Of course, everyone wants to get promoted, wants to get into League 1. But financial consolidation is very, very important. I know Cambridge United under Neil Harris, you know, speaking of very good managers in this division, will want to be getting promoted from this league. Listen to EFL All Access podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast from. Their director of football, Mark Bonner, came on with us yesterday, and he was making a plea for the independent regulator as well. And he was basically saying, you know, clubs down at this level need to be very, very careful about the money that they spend. And Cambridge United are one of those teams, you know, as much as we want to pour in with new signings, great new players from a higher division and stuff like that, they also, and many clubs in League 2, are looking at the bigger picture right now. Nobody wants to be the next club in Morecambe's situation. No one wants to spend what they haven't got. So, you know, earlier we were talking about the Premier League and standing still. For some of these clubs, virtually all of them, every player's been signed on a free transfer. They kind of give them the best contracts that they can, but there's no real exchanging and transfer dealing being done in terms of fees being spent. That's where we are with League 2. Very good players, very good teams, and always entertaining. If you go to a League 2 game, you're going to see a goal from about 30 yards. No disrespect to the goalkeepers. But again, it is because of that reason, because of the finances down in that league, very difficult to have a squad that is much, much better than one of the others in the league, which makes it interesting, but also means it's very difficult to call at this stage. We will see exactly how League 2 plays out when it starts. All the games kicking off at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Adrian Durham taking you around the grounds here on talkSPORT for that one. But we are going to talk about one of the teams coming up into League 2, and that is Barnet. Back into League 2, what is it, after I think 8 years away, stormed the National League title last year, 102 points. Dean Brennan's side have made 10 summer signings, including experienced forward Oliver Hawkins from Gillingham. The manager says their business is done for the window, so Barnet fans know exactly where they stand. Let's speak to one of their fans, though. Charlie Casson from the Bees Pod is with us. Good evening, Charlie.
Good evening, lads. How you doing?
very well indeed. Tell me, my friend, how much are you looking forward to the start of the new season?
I can't wait, mate. I can't wait.
Big smile on your face.
I know, yeah. We had a little slight test start on Tuesday in the Carabao Cup, but because it was that weird sort of round
Prelims.
just to get into the first round. Yeah, the pre-rounds. It felt like a little bit of a glorified pre-season. So the real business starts Saturday. No disrespect to the Carabao Cup, but Saturday's what we've been looking forward to. And you know what? I'm at the point now where I don't really care about the result. I'm sort of like reflecting on it, and it's going to be such a monumental day. We've been out of there for so long. In the middle of that, we had COVID as well, where we were right down the bottom of the National League. So I'm just excited, mate. I'm excited to, go with my dad and my brother and my best mates every week. So it's just going to be a special day, and I think it's really going to sink in when I see the players coming out with the EFL fonts on the back the shirt and the Sky Bet League 2 on the side of the shirts.
I'm sure the fact that you've dismissed the League Cup has nothing to do with the fact you were beaten on penalties, but we'll skirt around that. I mean, in terms of the season ahead, the step up from the National League to League Two historically hasn't been that big. In fact, a lot of teams who come up from non-league make a real good tilt at, if not win promotion. Is there a possibility that Barnet could go straight up again?
Yeah, listen, there's always that trajectory going into League Two. I think we're going into our 5th year now of the Dean Brennan project, and I think we've kept the majority of our spine from last year. Players like Danny Collins, Idris Kanu, Nick Tavares, we all thought they were going to go, and they've signed contracts this year for the long term. So they were like new signings almost. So I think being in the 5th year of the project, like I said, and having that sort of trajectory and the signings we've made as well, I think automatically puts us, in my opinion, in a better position than the whole bottom half of League Two, roughly, because we're like on the up, whereas teams in the bottom half of League Two might be sort of, in the middle of a project, or managers have gone and haven't recruited as well as they could have because of the season before or whatever. So, listen, I've in my 25 years supporting Barnet since 2001, I'm 31 now. The highest I've ever seen us finish is 12th in League Two in 2008. So I'm having a party if we finish 11th.
Tell us what the time away has been like for Barnet fans. It's a club that everyone knows, right? And people will often go down there and take in a game when they can, living in that part of London. Everyone knows Barnet, right? And it feels like Barnet should be at least a league club, which you are now, of course. But when you weren't, what were those years like for the fans?
Mate, it's like, listen, no disrespect to non-league, but everyone wants to be in League Two, and having watched Barnet in League Two for the majority of my life, going down there was tough. And like I said, we had COVID in the middle of that as well, which was a depressing time as it is. But then try finishing bottom of the National League during COVID. I mean, it was a real tough time for us. Excited I get to watch you and the team on ITV on a Saturday night again as well. Looking forward to that. Haven't been able to do that for 8 years, which is good. Still have to usually wait right until the last 5 minutes of the programme, but I'll take it. So yeah, no, it's been tough, but listen, it's what Brennan has done. He's just rejuvenated the club from top to bottom. If you said to me 3.5 years ago that we'd be, I'd be looking forward to my first game back in League Two, I wouldn't have believed you. It's unbelievable where we've come and how we've done it. And I really feel we can kick on now. I really do. We've got the base there, and 3.5, 4 years of hard work has gone into getting us to where we are. And listen, hopefully, everything comes into fruition and we can be a real force in League Two.
It is little things like that, isn't it? Your team featuring in a national highlights programme on TV. There'll be match reports of your games in the national newspapers, whereas maybe before there wasn't. You might have been having to rely on the non-league paper. Yeah. Those are the things that really bring it home that you're back in the big time.
100%, mate. And like Tuesday, we were on Sky Sports Plus. We're on Sky Football on the main event this weekend. I know Emma Saunders and the team are going to be down there at the Hive, which is amazing. Things like that just make it. I've not played any sort of games console in about 5-6 years, but I might have to get it for FIFA this year.
You've got to, mate.
Yeah, little things like that. Get
Champions
a little career
League
mode going. Yeah, exactly, man. Get a little career mode going. Get Barnet to the Champions League. It's all about. But it's exciting. And do you know what? This is once again. I don't want to disrespect the National League. That's not what I'm doing at all, because I've had some of my funnest afternoons out in the last sort of 5-6 years following Barnet. But there's actually like places now and grounds that I can go to and look forward to, where they're actual sort of stadiums and places I've heard of, and that's no disrespect at all. I'm not meaning any disrespect.
Which game are you most looking forward to this season?
Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have never in our history played Tranmere Rovers. Whenever we go up, they come down, and whenever we come down, they went up. So I think Tranmere fans and Barnet fans both are like, we're really, really looking forward to playing each other. I've never been up to Prenton Park, never played them. So that's on October the 11th. That's already in my diary when we're going up to Liverpool for the day. So looking forward to that. And I always look out for my birthday fixture, because I got an August birthday. So I love sort of going away in the sunshine, shorts and T-shirt, going for an away day. And we got Cheltenham Town on my birthday weekend. So looking forward to that as well.
Beautiful.
And yeah, just looking forward to some amazing stadiums there. Lovely stadiums, big clubs. You know, we're back in the big time, and I feel like people are going to start to care about us again and notice us again. You sort of get lost down there in non-league. So yeah, no, it's a really special time, and like I said, it's all going to sink in Saturday. 2 more sleeps. Can't wait.
Great to hear the excitement in your voice. A real football fan. Charlie Casson there from the Bees pod. If you're a Barnet fan, check it out. Thank you so much, Charlie, for taking the time to be with us. We'll leave you to your walk home.
I was going to say that was a nice tour of the street as well, wasn't it, for those folks watching
that,
on YouTube?
That didn't look like Barnet to me. It looked pretty upper class, no offence. But thank you very much, Charlie. You've not been to Barnet? I'm just saying.
Do you know what? I don't think I have, actually.
No, some nice bits. There are some very lovely bits. I'm only kidding.
I'm going to Wimbledon soon. First time I've been at their new ground. I've got an early season fixture at Wimbledon that I'm looking forward to.
I mean, I feel like I want to go to Tranmere Barnet now for a slice of history, because it's not often that you see a league match of all. That was a great stat. A fixture that's never been played before. So amazing. Tranmere against Barnet, October the 11th. If you're a Tranmere fan or you live near the ground, you can get a slice of history.
I think that's an international weekend as well, so maybe it might be a bumper crowd.
We'll get some more on the EFL straight after this. Let us know, head versus heart, what you think will happen to your club. I'll read out some of your messages in a moment as well. You can text us on 81089. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18+, begambleaware.org. listening to Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Hugh, Woozencroft and Alex Crook are with you. And we've been joined by Jackson Cole from talkSPORT.com, talkSPORT.com editor no less, for today's top stories from the website. There's a little sting as well.
We know about it. talkSPORT.com on the Transfer Insiders.
I like it.
Yeah,
it was low key, but I like it. You don't live in Barnet, do you, by the way? You wouldn't be very happy with Hugh if you did.
It's a beautiful place, like I said. What is the latest then, especially when it comes to transfers on the website right now?
Yeah, well, last hour or so, it feels like the transfer news has been breaking left, right and centre. Going for a slightly different flavour today. Obviously, the EFL season kicks off tomorrow, so I'm going to bring you a story from Wrexham. The man sat next to me, Alex Crook, filed that earlier today. Thanks for doing that. Talks understands that Wrexham are willing to meet Leicester's £2 million asking price for Conor Cody. It looked like he was going to join Rangers earlier in summer, but they didn't want to pay the £2 million. And, well, that's quite a good coup for Wrexham. He was capped for England 10 times, so I think Wrexham is certainly moving in the right direction.
I mean, it's an excellent bit of business. And when I saw the link for Conor Cody and Wrexham, I thought match made in heaven. Yeah. I mean, Conor is a great personality. He's a great talker, as we've heard on talkSPORT. He's got great experience, obviously. Can he still do it in the Championship? I think he can. He didn't play much for Leicester, but that was in a team that was trying to romp towards a title. And obviously in the Premier League, he was kind of going to be on the fringe. But I think for Wrexham, he could be a big part of a team that maybe doesn't push for promotion necessarily, but certainly gets themselves towards the upper part of the Championship table. I think he'd be a great addition.
And he'd be a good character for the next TV show as well, wouldn't he?
He would, yeah.
Yeah, he is a good talker. I was thinking exactly that. Yeah, I think it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. What else have you got?
This is a not so positive story, not strictly transfer related. It's about Sheffield Wednesday. There's serious doubts about their season opener against Leicester on August the 10th. That is live on talkSPORT. If it happens, there are fears in the EFL and the wider footballing world that this may not happen. Sheffield Wednesday's players, they refuse to play in a scheduled behind closed doors friendly against Burnley on Saturday after the club failed to pay their wages on time. I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. Wages were paid late in May and June, and it's just all sorts of chaos. You've got Chansiri trying to sell the club, but it just seems to be going nowhere. And now they might not be able to fulfill the terms of the start of their season by fielding a team against Leicester City.
That would be horrific, I think,
yes.
For a league as big as the Championship, obviously, to have fixtures that aren't being fulfilled for this reason. The Sheffield Wednesday fans, the club as a whole, fantastic, and I love going there, love Hillsborough. The noise that they make is unbelievable, and the times that I've been there over the last few seasons, I just couldn't have imagined something like this was conceivable. It just felt like they were on the up and up under Danny Roll, and that they'd probably be in that picture for promotion very, very soon. And obviously, it looks like they'll be favourites for relegation. But yeah, I think it would be a real crisis if they weren't to play in any of their fixtures. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But these are the moments that I look towards the FA and EFL and say, this is the time to help Sheffield Wednesday out if you can. You know, it is the transfer window at the moment. They can't sign players necessarily, but I almost feel like it might get to that point where after the window closes, there might be a club that needs 3 or 4 players. There might be players out of contract where the PFA suddenly goes, listen, if they've got even £1,000 a week and they want to sign players who might not even be at this level, but just bodies to have in your squad, then that might have to be something that's facilitated by the powers that be.
Can I just say as well, while we're talking about Sheffield Wednesday, it tells you just how despicable a character Chansiri is, that Hillsborough, of all places, has a stand that's deemed not safe to be open. Just let that sink in for a minute.
I just don't understand how he's still got his hands on the club, to be perfectly honest.
The EFL have got to get harder on these guys. You know, it took far too long for them to force Dai Yong out of Reading. It took the football club to get to the brink of going out of existence.
I was talking
to step in.
to Crookie a little bit earlier on about the independent regulator, and I know we've got some big figures on the station who think it would be a disaster. And when you look at the top end of Premier League football, I think the argument is different to even when you get into the Championship, League 1, League 2, and beyond, particularly the remit for the independent regulator. And I was saying to Crookie, you know, in terms of accounting now, that independent regulator should be getting clubs' accounts probably quarterly now. They can no longer do what they've done in the past and said, we didn't understand the situation was so grave. You don't have to publicise the accounts every quarter, but the independent regulator should have a view on which clubs are losing money hand over fist and which ones are going to be in a situation where something like this could happen. And hopefully they can kind of arrest things earlier on with that knowledge. That's all I think, anyway. Just an opinion.
I think that's a very, very good thought. Yeah, absolutely.
Jackson, what else have you got for us?
Yeah, there's a slightly more positive one. This is through talkSPORT Darts. They got an interview of Luke Littler, and he wants Manchester United, the team he supports, to sign Douglas Luiz. He's been quoted saying, "I'd go straight in for Douglas Luiz at Juve. They're letting him go. He can hold. He can play further up. It's a no-brainer." He's not had the best time at Juventus this season, Douglas Luiz.
He was linked with Everton, wasn't he?
And West Ham.
West Ham as well.
Yeah, he only made 3 starts in Serie A last season, so might be a transfer that he welcomes. And I know Hugh, and well, both of you are Man United fans. Is that something you'd like?
I'm not overly sold on signing a Juventus cast-off, to be honest. I think we've had enough.
We've seen, listen,
we've had enough of that type of player.
You were saying earlier on in the conversation around Ollie Watkins, player that's proven in the Premier League, you know what they can do.
Yeah.
And he does fit in that category. He's had a tough time away at Juventus. Doesn't mean he's a terrible footballer overnight. We're talking about João Paulinho. Hasn't had a great time at Bayern Munich, but again, he's not a terrible footballer overnight. You know, these guys have shown in the Premier League they can handle the pace of it, which a lot of players that have come from foreign leagues find difficult in the start. He's shown that he can handle it. He played for an Aston Villa side that was very, very strong. And you're telling me that Manchester United midfield doesn't need a player like Douglas Luiz? If he's anywhere near his best, he'll get plenty of playing time at Man United.
Yeah, but why did he only play, 3 games you said for Juventus?
Yeah, I think he did have a couple of injuries through the season.
He's on big money, so it was a massive money. Not for me.
Okay, I don't want him on massive money, but I think as a player, just looking at the talent, Manchester United's midfield is short for me, and I think if they are going to bring in just one more body, I wouldn't be against it. No, I'm just saying.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Let me quickly, while you're both here, read out some of the messages that have been coming in from EFL fans during this hour regarding what they think might happen for their club over the course of this season. Unfortunately, there are a lot of messages from Wednesday fans who aren't too hopeful. This fan, Grim. Oh, sorry. No, that's just that's just a review of the season. He says, our hope is to still exist as a club. Expectation 0 points. Grim, he says. That's not his name, obviously. This one says, as a Wednesday fan, I'm dreading the season. No manager, no players, 3 embargoes, a megalomaniac chairman, a ground that's been condemned, possible points deduction. Lord help us. That's Pete. Thank you very much indeed. Other EFL fans, we've got a few in the Premier League. More Sheffield Wednesday supporters not very happy. Let's keep going. An Oldham fan, great to be back in the EFL. Head says mid-table. Heart says a playoff place is achievable. Plymouth Argyle fan here. My heart says straight back up after the Rooney disaster, but head says mid-table after losing some very good players, including Hardy to Wrexham. Thanks. That's Tom. He says Green Army, of course. This one's from a Pompey fan. In fact, it's a question for you, Crookie. Does the guru Crookie think that Big John Mousinho can work the miracle, I think that might be, and keep Pompey safe again in the Championship this season?
Well, I think he's going to have to work another miracle because I've not been overly impressed with what Pompey have done in the market. And I think if you look at the teams coming up from League One, Birmingham, I think are going to be right up there at the top of the table. Wrexham, I don't have any fears for them in terms of relegation. So I think the bottom of the Championship is going to be stronger than it was last season. I think Mousinho worked wonders last year, having not really been backed in the summer, to keep Pompey up. If he does keep their head above water, I would expect bigger clubs in the Championship to certainly cast admiring glances in his direction. I hope they stay up. It's my local club. I'm going to be there at Oxford on the first day of the season. I'm doing the first home game in the League Cup as well, and I think he's a great manager and a great guy.
Another great EFL club. He's a fantastic coach, John Mousinho. Loved what he did in League One. Fantastic to keep Portsmouth comfortably, in my opinion.
It was, yeah.
Pretty comfortably.
Leeds
in the Championship last season. I went to that game. Absolutely brilliant as well. Yeah, we'll see. It's a big season ahead. You can get the latest on everything from Jackson Cole and talkSPORT.com, so thank you very much.
Not just my work.
For being here. No. Don't be down on yourself. Jackson does most of the work, he tells me, at talkSPORT.com.
JacksonCole.com.
Well, that's totally different.
Nice.
I've got to say, don't go to Jackson Cole. It's totally different. You don't want to see that, ladies and gentlemen. But talkSPORT.com, you do want to see. So, Jackson, thank you very much indeed. We'll have much more with the Transfer Insiders straight after this. Stay with us.
Lucas Paquetá has been cleared of misconduct charges related to alleged breaches of Football Association betting rules. The Brazilian was charged with 4 alleged breaches in May 2024 in relation to matches involving West Ham. While Hammer's vice chair, Karen Brady, says Paquetá is looking forward to drawing a line under the episode, as is everyone at the club. The verdict comes amid rumours he might return to his home country. So could this still be the case? Here's the Sun's reporter, Will Pugh.
The one story that hasn't gone away is a move potentially back to Flamengo. He came through the ranks there, and there is the sense and some of the sort of room whisperings coming out of the campus, certainly, that given the toll this has taken on him, that perhaps a journey back home or a period of time back home might be just, for him to recuperate.
Elsewhere, Alexander Isak is currently training with Real Sociedad, trying to get himself back into proper fitness, and probably just to take himself away from Newcastle right now amid growing talk he's off to Liverpool. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook says his former club will benefit hugely if Isak decides to move.
Of course, he missed their tour of Singapore with a thigh issue, but seemingly is okay to travel to Spain. They sold him for £60 million, and they've got a sell-on clause. So if they do get the £150 million British record fee, that's going to be quite a handsome amount hitting Real Sociedad's bank balance.
It's been a cracking start for Thomas Frank as the new Tottenham boss, a win over their North London rivals. Spurs beat Arsenal 1-0 in a friendly over in Hong Kong, with Saar securing an absolute worldie. Meanwhile, Victor Gyökeres came off the bench late on, but couldn't really make an impact, and 15-year-old Max Dowman got some minutes as well. Max Verstappen put the rumours to bed. He will be staying at Red Bull next season. The full-time world champion is under contract until 2028, but has been courted by Mercedes and has been considering his options. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Chief football correspondent Alex Crook is here. I'm Hugh, Woozencroft, and also Ben Jacobs is going to join us for some of the latest transfer stories. There are some big ones on the horizon. Bournemouth fans, in particular, stay tuned. We got news earlier in the show that Everton have had a bid rejected for the Southampton winger Tyler Dibbling. Eberechi Eze has a release clause in his contract that expires tonight, I think. Alex Crook's going to tell us more, and we'll be getting the latest on another Sunderland signing. This is the Transfer Insiders. Keep your messages coming in as well, 81089. Some of you may have taken what I just said about the independent regulator just a little bit wrong. I'm not suggesting the government seizes football clubs, okay? I'm just suggesting they have an idea of where their finances are on a much more regular basis than once a year. That's all I'm saying, right? May well stop them from spending money sooner as they're losing it. Just to combat some of the issues that we've had, okay? Just hear me out, okay, people? Anyway, keep those messages coming on 81089, excuse me. Also, let us know about what you think is going to happen with your club, head versus heart, in the upcoming season. Of course, we're on the eve of the start of the EFL. Luton versus AFC Wimbledon tomorrow night, exclusively on talkSPORT 2, will get us underway. But let's take a look now at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our Odds Boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
And there's plenty for us to talk about with Ben Jacobs, talkSPORT's transfer reporter, who joins us live now.
Gents, good evening.
Thank you for being with us. First bit of news pertains to a certain Johan Visser of Brentford. What should we... what are you hearing when it comes to his future? Because it seems like he's a want-away player. He seems to fall into that category at the moment. Is he still there?
I think that's absolutely correct that Johan Wissa wants to leave Brentford. He wants Newcastle. At the moment, Tottenham haven't come with a bid, but basically Wissa wants to play Champions League football. Newcastle have made two approaches, one formal for 25 million, another for 30 million and 5 million in add-ons, which was a verbal offer. And Wissa then went to Brentford after leaving their camp in Portugal and said that should be enough to allow me, approaching the age of 29, to go and play in a once-in-a-career opportunity to participate in the Champions League and ultimately get a payday as well. So Wissa's pushing for a move. Now, the rest of the Brentford players have reported back to training in London, and Wissa was there today, but he didn't train. He left early, and he again told Brentford's hierarchy that he wants to leave. And my understanding is that Newcastle are preparing a third bid, and this is separate to any pursuit of Benjamin Sesko, because if Alexander Isak is to go, there's a fair chance that Newcastle may try first and line up not one, but two attackers. So Wissa is pushing to leave, but Brentford's valuation at the moment, anyway, remains in excess of £40 million.
This feels like the first real test of Keith Andrews' authority, doesn't it? Because it's my understanding that he's told the Brentford hierarchy, we can't afford to sell Wissa and Mbeumo. Obviously, Mbeumo has already completed that move to Manchester United. Is this maybe an example of a player trying to take advantage of the fact they've got a rookie manager? Would he have been maybe so vociferous if Thomas Frank was still in charge?
It's hard to tell, because I think you make a great point that Brentford's hierarchy needs to back an inexperienced manager. They've lost Brian Mbeumo. Let's not forget, only 12 months ago, Ivan Toney went off to Saudi Arabia. If you factor in Wissa, that's a whole lot of goals that you can't just replace overnight, even if you've got some budget to do so. Christian Norgard has gone to Arsenal as well. So there's a whole lot of change taking place at that football club. And you have an inexperienced manager who has some continuity and knows the dressing room, but that won't help if you can't score goals. So Brentford's position has always been, if Mbeumo went to Manchester United, it would be very difficult for Wissa to leave as well. But I don't think, Alex, they were expecting Wissa to push so hard. And as we've seen with Alexander Isak and other players in the past, Wesley Fofana from Leicester to Chelsea, when a player wants out, it's very difficult, especially with a month left of the window, to keep them at the football club. So the end result may not go down the route of Morgan Gibbs-White, who signed a new deal. I think this is a scenario where Wissa might still stand a chance of manufacturing his own exit.
What about Manchester United then? You mentioned Brian Mbeumo already there. Will Benjamin Sesko be a new teammate of his? What chance do you think this will happen?
Yeah, I think there's a fair chance. So myself and Alex yesterday broke the story that Manchester United sent a delegation to Germany to start formal talks. And there's kind of two tactics at play here. You've got Newcastle and Manchester United. Newcastle have gone to Leipzig and essentially said, if your asking price is over 80 million euros, we're prepared to pay it. And I think some of the reason why is because they know they're pre-spending, in some senses, Alexander Isak money. Manchester United, on the other hand, are trying to get buy-in from the player in the hope that when they go formally to Leipzig, the price will drop, because it's clear the player wants Manchester United. And at the moment, it looks like Manchester United are more confident than Newcastle. But of course, you've got to be able to negotiate with Leipzig, and the price didn't drop for Arsenal. Manchester United are banking on the fact that later in the window it will, because Leipzig need to bring in funds. They've not got European football. And again, a bit like Brentford in a strange way. If Xavi Simons went to Chelsea first, Leipzig may stick to their asking price. If a deal gets done for Sesko first, it might be harder to get Xavi Simons for under 70 million euros. There's an element of the intertwined nature of two deals going on, but the first one that gets done will probably be more routine than the second. And at the moment, Manchester United are more confident than Newcastle.
Busy window for Arsenal so far. Obviously getting the Gyökeres deal over the line. I think a lot of their supporters are rejoicing about that. We reported a while ago now, and we broke that exclusively, about their interest in Eberechi Eze. Tonight at midnight, his release clause expires. Am I right in saying that at the moment there's no obvious sign that Arsenal will trigger that release clause ahead of the deadline?
Yeah, I think it's technically Friday evening, so 11:59 you can trigger it, and midnight heading into Saturday, the release clause expires, because that takes you 2 weeks before the beginning of the Premier League season. I know in this modern age you've got Friday games and so on, but when it was written, I think it was basically to do with the Saturday and the weekend, 2 weeks before the Premier League season. So about 24 hours if somebody wants to trigger it. My expectation is it won't make much difference. The clause is 60 million up front, 8 million in add-ons. Arsenal have already communicated to Crystal Palace that they don't want to trigger it now. They might need an outgoing first before they formalise their interest in Eze. But the expectation is still they'll bid at some point between now and the end of the window, and lower than this soon-to-be expiring release clause. And as a consequence, it will fall on Crystal Palace, because once the clause is gone, they can shut the door, they can demand that the previous active clause is matched, or maybe they can entertain a lower amount. And I think Arsenal are looking at Anthony Elanga, who moved, of course, to Newcastle from Nottingham Forest. And because Eze's only got 2 years left on his deal, they think 55 million might be competitive if Crystal Palace choose to sell. What I think is going to complicate this, though, is if Mark Gay goes first, and we know that Liverpool are interested and Palace are more inclined to sell because he's not going to sign a new deal, then again, they may shut the door on Eberechi Eze, because today, Oliver Glasner spoke about how he's quite disappointed with the summer so far. And the only thing that's going to make it worse is if Gay leaves, if Eze leaves, because then they're in a position where they're scrambling at the end of the window. So Eze won't be easy for Arsenal, but one thing's for sure, the player is keen on the move.
Some other moves. Chelsea agreeing a deal for Ajax defender Jurel Hato, initial fee of £37 million. There could be one person on their way out of Chelsea, though, possibly to Sunderland.
Yeah, Mark Guy, this is all agreed in principle. The young striker that Chelsea signed from La Masia, the Barcelona academy, for just $5 million. And Ipswich Town were the first suitor to come to the table. But Chelsea were always hoping they could get him a pathway for Premier League football, as they've done in the past with other players, Amanda Broja, David Datro Fofana, and now Mark Guy, the latest. And it's sort of win-win for Chelsea, because this helps his development. There's no buy option. If Sunderland go down, they'll bring him back anyway. And the value of the player will rise, which means if he succeeds in the Premier League, it's an easy transition into the Chelsea setup. If it's not quite working and Chelsea feel they've got other options, the value is going to be raised, because they'll now get a full season playing Premier League football. So the medical is expected to take place tomorrow. It's all agreed in principle. And the young Chelsea striker, Mark Guéhi, will go to Sunderland on loan with no buy option.
And Mohamed El Khanous from Leicester City, where could he be on his way soon?
Yeah, Bilal El Khanous from Leicester City. There's actually a relegation release clause for the Moroccan, who can be available for 26 million euros, but the payment terms on that clause coming into play when Leicester went down is not particularly preferable, I'm told, to a buying club. And this is why Leicester are essentially saying to suitors, if you're prepared to go between 25 and 30 million pounds, you can do the deal on your kind of structure and terms. Otherwise, trigger the clause, which is still seen as quite valuable, but I'm under the impression that it's got to be paid within 12 months, which is difficult for some of the suitors that are looking to do the deal. Leeds United are the latest club to have made an inquiry. He has been on West Ham's radar. Everton have taken a look as well, and Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia. So there's several clubs, even a few in Turkey too. Besiktas, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's club, also made an approach to Leicester City. So I think Leicester feel their valuation is going to be met, because there's a high volume of suitors. The player wants to go and play in a top 5 league, or if he moves outside of that, European football somewhere. He can't get that at Leicester. Leicester also need to sell if they're to make any significant inroads into the market too. So all signs, just because of that volume of interest, point towards a Bilal El Khanous exit, and Leeds are the latest club to have made a formal inquiry.
And on the subject of potential Leicester exits, we broke the news a while ago that West Ham have now made a formal approach from Mads Hermansen, the goalkeeper. Do you expect that one to happen imminent?
I think West Ham are quite optimistic, Crookie, and the reason for that is because Leicester have brought in Asmir Begovic, and again, coming back to the previous point, there's only a couple of assets that Leicester can really sell for big money to really help them add the depth necessary, and they need to strengthen an attack because Jamie Vardy has gone as well. So they may have to sacrifice one big name, plus potentially Wilfred Ndidi, but the challenge with Ndidi is he's only got a £9 million release clause, and as a result, it doesn't quite give you the same kind of money as El Khanous at £25 million or so, or Mads Hermansen, who Leicester a year ago, just after Enzo Maresca left, valued at £35 million. My understanding is that West Ham are thinking more around the £20 to £25 million mark. Still a lot of money for a goalkeeper, and maybe enough to turn the heads of the Leicester City hierarchy, even though the new Leicester boss is probably of the thinking he'd rather keep a goalkeeper of Hermansen's quality. So expect West Ham to keep pushing here. Talks are ongoing, and I think there is some optimism from Graham Potter and the recruitment team that they might get this one over the line.
Ben, thank you very much indeed. That's Ben Jacobs with the latest from the transfer market. He, of course, alongside Crook, going to be keeping you right up to date until the end of the transfer window in a little over a month's time. That was all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
Okay, we will be back with the latest from the transfer window very shortly indeed. You're listening to talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org. Hello, welcome back to the Transfer Insiders. Hugh, Woozencroft and Alex Crook are with you. And now it's time for this.
Quick fire! Flames or freezing?
Yes, this is Flames or Freezing, when Alex and I take a look at some of the day's hottest transfer stories and decide whether we're going to pour some cold water on them or whether they are flaming hot, okay?
Hugh Woozencroft to Barnet?
I think that's freezing, to be perfectly honest. They definitely don't want a player like me.
Freezing.
So you get the gist of it, right? Okay, and we're going to talk about some of the big stories. I know some of them have been spoken about, some of them not so much. So we'll start with one of the big headlines of late. Alexander Isak, Newcastle to Liverpool. Simple one, right?
Simple one in that I don't really have a definitive answer. I think it can go either way.
You don't. It's Flames, mate. That would be an unbelievable deal.
Oh no, but I thought we were doing. Would it happen or not?
No.
So this is just whether you think it'd be a good deal.
Think it'd be a good deal.
Well, clearly Flames then. Yeah.
Flames.
Yeah. We don't know whether any of them are going to happen. Let's be real. It's all speculation, isn't it? At this point.
Well, we like to try and inform rather than speculate.
When it comes to Isak to Liverpool, I'm starting to wonder whether Newcastle are doing the right thing. I mean, no one wants them to just facilitate a deal. Obviously, their fans certainly don't. The longer it goes on, they're going to have to get to a point soon where I think there's an indication from Isak that he's prepared to stay. If they don't get that, they're going to have to start going into conversations with Liverpool. Obviously, they can't do that until Liverpool make a bid, so I can't blame them at this stage.
Well, I think it'll work slightly differently, this transfer. I think Liverpool will only make a bid once they get the nod from Newcastle that they're prepared to sell.
I see. Why?
Obviously, they've made the initial contact.
You've got Alexander Isak training at Real Sociedad. There's an opportunity. There's an open goal there. I mean, come on, get the money on the table, and that obviously is going to pour pressure.
I think that conversation has already taken place. I think Liverpool have already said to Newcastle, we will pay a British record fee if you decide that you're ready to do business.
Why is that an if? I just
because
don't
Newcastle
understand.
have got the money to make. But Newcastle have got the decision to make. Do they part company with their star striker, who is still contracted, and he's still got a number of years left of his contract?
I get it from Newcastle's perspective. But if I'm Liverpool and I want Alexander Isak, I've got a bid. And I've got a bid now while the situation
But I don't think they want to get into a situation where they start bids get rejected. I think they want to go, shebang, here's the offer, let's get it done.
But they're expecting Newcastle to call them and tell them, you know what, we've decided to let you buy him, essentially. I mean, it sounds weird, right?
It does.
I think if you make the bid, the pressure on the situation grows massively. Isak's going, come on, accept the money.
But they know Liverpool are there. He knows Liverpool want to buy him. Newcastle know Liverpool want to buy him. It was interesting hearing Gabby Ogbonlahor on Drive earlier, and he thinks by missing the tour, by not even using the Newcastle facilities, by going to Real Sociedad to train, he has basically secured his exit. He doesn't see a way back for Alexander Isak. And I do wonder, because there are whispers that maybe some of his teammates are not particularly enamoured by his conduct. If Newcastle do decide to keep him, how welcome would he be back in the dressing room?
They'd welcome him back. He's the best player. Let's be realistic. All footballers want to win. Their chances of getting back into the Champions League once again, all those players want to play in the Champions League for the season after the upcoming season, grow vastly if Alexander Isak is in the team. It's business. They all know it's business. They've all been in the game long enough. And I guess no one likes Alexander Isak's behaviour at the moment. Of course they don't. But it's either going to secure him a move to Liverpool or it's not. And if he stays, they're going to welcome him back into that squad.
I guess the other fear, if you're a Newcastle fan, is does this start a domino effect? If Alexander Isak leaves, does Bruno Guimaraes then look around and think, well, do you know what? This club is not ambitious enough.
Yeah.
I need to look at my options. Does Sandro Tonali do the same? Does Sven Botman do the same? Does it start a vicious circle as far as Newcastle are concerned?
I don't want to say that Newcastle would keep an unhappy player. If he's truly unhappy, I don't know why he would be. They've clearly treated him well. Okay, there's this conversation around his contract, but ultimately he's still got 3 years left on his current deal, so he can't have too many complaints. He knew when he signed it what it was going to be.
Yeah,
right?
That's Simon Jordan's take.
So, but I just don't see how a really unhappy player stays at Newcastle. If he is to be that unhappy that he's basically on strike, eventually I think a move will be facilitated, particularly if Newcastle are going to get record-breaking money. Anyway, we'll see. It would be an incredible move. We've spoken a little bit about Manchester United earlier. Would it be flames or freezing? Benjamin Sesko for Manchester United as part of a kind of swap deal for Rasmus Højlund to go the other way to RB Leipzig. I think I know what you're going to say.
I'm going to say flames.
Flames for Manchester United. Freezing for RB Leipzig, yeah.
Listen, I think Rasmus has actually looked quite sharp in the couple of pre-season games I've watched, and obviously he was really happy to get that goal in the friendly overnight against Bournemouth. But I go back to his performance in the Europa League final. I mean, that was a disgrace from Rasmus Højlund. Šeško is clearly a step up.
He is. I don't actually know why RB Leipzig would take Rasmus Højlund.
I think it's more likely that Rasmus Højlund goes back on loan to Italy if he does leave United.
Yeah, okay. Not a great situation for Højlund. I agree. He's looked a little bit brighter in pre-season, but
looks a bit fitter, a bit sharper.
Yeah, but last season was a disaster. I don't think the natural football instincts are necessarily there for him to be a Manchester United player anyway. Flames or freezing? Crystal Palace informing Arsenal that they'd have to pay at least 35 million in advance, 67.5 million in all, if they want to sign Eberechi Eze. I guess it's flames or freezing when it comes to the finances there. 35 million in advance. Do you think Arsenal should pay that?
Yeah, I think he's good enough.
Yeah,
I think he's a good player.
I tend to agree. Again, it's like, if you've got the money and he's the player that you truly believe is going to elevate you, go and get him. It's not life-changing money, 67.5 million. It's obviously a lot, but we know the quality of the player is there. If he can take you to a Premier League title, if you believe he can be part of a team that does take you to a Premier League title, then you go and do it right now. It's been a long time these Arsenal fans have been waiting. Flames or freezing, Chelsea pushing to sign Alejandro Garnacho. Manchester United holding out for at least £40 million.
I'm going to go freezing.
Freezing.
40 million's too much for Garnacho?
I just think when you look at his season last year, he started brightly enough, but you look at his numbers in the second half of the season in terms of goal involvements, goals and assists, I worry about his end product. I think there's raw talent there, but I also worry about his temperament. You look at his behaviour before and after the Europa League final. And also, you look how well-resourced Chelsea are in the wide areas. They've signed Jamie Gittins already. They're going to get Javi Simons as well. Do they need him? I'm not sure they do. And what if he goes there and he finds himself on the bench, then they're going to have to deal with the same issues if you're Enzo Maresca that Ruben Amorim has encountered.
They're not at Chelsea. Enzo Maresca won't have to do that because Manchester United needed Alejandro Garnacho, and as you just pointed out, they don't need him at Chelsea. So if he wants to act up, see you later. Go with the under-21s, go in the reserves, post whatever you want on social media. Next time transfer window comes around, we'll get rid of you. Whereas Man United were desperate for him. He was the main attacking thrust for that team for a period of time. They needed him to perform. And ultimately, he did in certain games, didn't in others. He's still a high-potential youngster, and I think for £40 million, you know, if he doesn't work out at Chelsea, what's the least you're going to get rid of him for? He's probably still going to command £30 million in the pre. You're not going to lose that much money on him. So for me, it's flames just around the finances of the deal, because I think 40 million is a bit of a snip, despite all the character issues that we've mentioned already.
Do you know what troubles me about Garnacho? Manchester United have been at such a low ebb for the past decade that this guy emerges from the academy. He's obviously got pace. He runs at people, which is part of the DNA of Manchester United. But you put him on a pedestal. I think a lot of Manchester United fans have put him on a pedestal. He isn't a superstar. He's got some potential.
He could be.
But he isn't that good.
I think he's, for his age, the numbers that he's put up, I know people go, oh, his numbers weren't great, but actually for his age, his numbers are very strong. So far in his career, you know, people under the age of 20 don't really put up the kind of numbers that he's done. It has been a good start to his professional career, and that shows high potential. That actually the main issues are character-wise. Actually, the same numbers, if he was, you know, a kid that didn't go on social media, didn't talk about being left out of teams, etc., you could probably put £60 million on that. It's actually the character flaws that have been so publicly announced by him on social media and spoken about by the manager that actually have left him as a £40 million signing. And also, of course, the fact Manchester United need to sell him. So actually that's driven the price down.
But he's not a superstar.
He could be.
We'll see.
Anyway, the final one also pertains to Manchester United, opening talks with PSG for Italy goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. Flames or freezing?
Well, if this happened, then I'm sceptical. This would be flames for me.
Flames?
Is he an upgrade on Andre Onana? I mean, I saw you playing the talkSPORT trophy. I think you're an upgrade on Andre Onana. I mean, Donnarumma is brilliant, isn't he? I mean, early in his career, maybe the accusation was that he'd made too many big errors. But you look at his form over the past couple of seasons, particularly in the second half of last season when they won the Champions League, PSG, he was brilliant. The saves he made at Villa Park, the saves he made at home to Arsenal.
I would have taken Aaron Ramsdale.
Me too.
On loan for a year. Yeah. I would have been perfectly happy with that. I think Onana's consistent mistakes have cost Manchester United way too many points, and I think they just need to look towards a new goalkeeper. So I'll take pretty much anyone. So yes, flames for me as well. Gianluigi Donnarumma, will he arrive at Man United? You'll find out first on talkSPORT, no doubt. Alex Crook, thank you very much indeed. Much more still to come on the Transfer Insiders. We'll recap some of the big stories, the big news of the evening straight after this.
Lukewarm.
This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I am Hugh Woozencroft. Alongside me, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. And this is your whistle-stop tour of the biggest transfer news of the day. And we start with a discussion on a prospective new striker for Manchester United. Ben Jacobs, talkSPORT's football reporter, has the latest on Benjamin Sesko. We'll try and come to that in a few moments' time. In fact, sorry, that's a little bit later on. We'll come back to that. For the meantime, Crookie, let's discuss some of the big stories of the day. Tyler Dibbling and a bid rejected for the Southampton winger. Tell us more.
Yeah, lots of clubs have been monitoring Tyler Dibbling, sort of burst onto the scene at the start of last season, played some good football under Russell Martin, lost his way a bit when Martin was replaced by Ivan Juric, but still a player, I think, with huge future potential, still a teenager. £27 million plus add-ons is the bid that Everton have rejected for Tyler Dibbling. It's our understanding that Saints are holding out for a fee north of £40 million. They are expecting Everton to bid again. The likes of Tottenham and West Ham have also been keeping close tabs on this situation, but we've heard publicly from David Moyes that he's frustrated, bewildered almost by Everton's lack of activity, considering they lost more than 10 players who were out of contract at the end of last season. And clearly he feels like Tyler Dibbling is someone who can come in and improve the team.
Tyler Dibbling is massively impressive. I know he got left out a little bit towards the end of last season. I think there was a little bit of protection there from Southampton when they knew they were going to get relegated, and they knew that he could be potentially a big money transfer for them in the summer. He was kind of used a little bit less, but realistically, when he was on the pitch, that just relentlessly positive attitude that he has with the ball at his feet, wanting to charge at goal, wanting to make things happen. As a young player, no fear of the Premier League, and of course room to grow with the right coaching. He's going to make a great player for someone, and fingers crossed for England in the future as well.
He's got such good feet, Tyler Dibbling, and I remember speaking to Aaron Ramsdale when he first joined Southampton, and he was blown away by the technical ability that Dibbling has, and he compared him to a young Jack Wilshere.
Yeah, he can do great things. Would it be a good move for him?
Well, this is an interesting one because he actually left Southampton once before, went to Chelsea, got homesick and came back. Now, obviously, Everton is a lot further north of the south coast than Chelsea was, but he's a little bit older now, a little bit wiser potentially. So I think it would be a risk for Everton with that in mind, that he didn't settle at Chelsea. But I think he's got huge talent, as you say.
Yeah. And also on the point around David Moyes and Everton signing players, I do have to say, patience is a virtue on this one. The financial situation at the club over the previous years means that they can't go out and make massive signings quite clearly. Otherwise, they would have probably done it already. But there is, I think, a lot of value to be had towards the end of this transfer market. And I think that's where Everton will look to operate. We know there are some very big clubs in the Premier League with just far too many players. Let's be realistic. So if it's going to be on loan, or if some players are going to be offloaded for maybe a lesser amount, I think Everton are one of the clubs that could capitalise quite well on that. I know there were links to Jack Grealish earlier in the window. Who knows if something
Well,
like
the
that.
interest is still there from Everton in Jack Grealish.
Okay, someone like that might be fantastic. I know that would probably be towards the top end of their budget. If it is to be a loan, they're probably going to pay half the wages at least of his £300,000 a week. So I know it's going to be towards the top end wise for Everton if they do go for a Jack Grealish. But I still think elsewhere, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Manchester United, the likes of Manchester City, even Arsenal and Liverpool, you know, lots of players there that they could possibly offload. Okay, Liverpool to Everton seems unlikely, but you never know. It's happened before. But some of those other clubs will probably do business with an Everton, looking at David Moyes and his experience and thinking, if we leave one of our players there for a year, what kind of experience are they going to have in that fantastic new stadium that Everton have built? Their fan base hugely passionate as well. You know, it's a good place to leave your player, I think, under David Moyes' leadership. So, again, it's just going to have to be about patience for Moyes and for Everton fans as well.
And they have got a new striker in Tierno Barry, and I've spoken to people who scouted Barry on behalf of Everton, and they think he could surprise a few people this season. And they tied Jared Branthwaite down to a new contract, and that is a huge piece of business.
It is, but they still want more players.
Yeah,
that's what fans always want.
Of course. But listen, I don't fear for Everton. Well, David Moyes just doesn't really do relegation, does he?
No, but I don't fear for Everton on the basis of the last two seasons, when the three promoted clubs have come up and gone straight back down. And I know Leeds, I think Leeds will go for it. They'll get more players in. Sunderland are obviously doing as much as they possibly can.
Sunderland will stay up. But somebody will go down, you know, those established Premier League clubs, because Sunderland, I'm telling you, are going to stay up.
But I just don't feel Everton are too worried, too concerned that team will be them right now. I feel they're comfortable that they'll make a few more additions that will be good enough to keep them in the league.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Watch this space, Everton fans. João Paulinho to Spurs. Now, Spurs fans are slightly disappointed, aren't they? There's a possibility, Ben Jacobs reports, of João Paulinho joining on an initial loan deal at Spurs. He's open to a permanent move as well. The former Fulham man, of course, has gone to Bayern Munich and hasn't really pulled up trees out in Germany. So would he be the right kind of player for Thomas Frank's new Spurs team?
I think Thomas Frank is looking for that sort of player. That's why he was interested in Christian Norgard. I mentioned earlier in the programme that Yves Bissouma, I think, is someone who Tottenham have told that if he finds a new club, then they would go in a different direction. Hasn't worked out for João Paulinho in Germany. Hasn't really had the impact that Bayern Munich, who were chasing him for a number of windows, were hoping for. But he is proven in the Premier League. He's a couple of years older than when he was here before, and I think that would put off some clubs. I think it's going to be a loan deal initially with a buy option. Personal terms, I'm told, are already agreed. So I think this deal will happen, and I think it does add squad depth for Tottenham in an area where they probably need it.
How many more players do you think Tottenham truly need? I think there's a lot of people down on that squad because of their league finish last year. Obviously, 17th cost and Postecoglou his job. But I think there are more than enough good players for them to finish much higher up the league. They've got Thomas Frank in, very good manager, with the right kind of plan. I actually feel like there's a lot of talent in that Tottenham team. I think there's a lot of people that feel like they need a lot to improve. I just think their players need to be more at it this season.
I think one of the big question marks I would have is fitness and injury. You look at their most important players, Mickey van der Ven.
Yeah.
He suffers with his hamstring because he's so fast. Yeah. You know, I don't really know how you solve that. Maybe you ask him to do less running than Ange Postecoglou was asking him to do.
You don't defend on the halfway line and ask him to sprint constantly back towards his own goal.
Potentially. But Bentancur, I think, is a really good player, but again, has picked up a number of injuries now. Even someone like Dejan Kulusevski, can you rely on him to stay fit? James Maddison is going to miss the start of the season with the knee injury that ruled him out of the Europa League final. Son is probably going to go over
Solanke
to
had a big injury last season.
Yeah, Solanke's already missed minutes in pre-season, so I am a little bit concerned by the fitness of the squad, and that's where the depth comes into play. Is it deep enough to challenge domestically and in the Champions League? And I don't think it is at this moment in time.
Let's talk about Arsenal. Let's move across North London. Eberechi Eze, of course, currently a Crystal Palace player. 24 or so hours left on a potential release clause. This would be somewhere in the £68 million mark to be triggered 2 weeks before the start of the Premier League season, well, the first opening weekend of the season. So Arsenal have a day to decide whether they want to pay it. Doesn't look like they fancy it, though.
No, I think they need to trim the squad a bit now, and I think probably Eze's arrival at Arsenal would be dependent on one of Martinelli or more likely Trossard leaving the club. I think part of the concern is that they maybe think Eze's best position is as a number 10, and they've got Martin Odegaard there, and obviously Wanyeri's just signed a new contract, and it's my understanding that he's been told he'll be the sort of backup number 10. So I think that's a little bit of an issue. Financially, I don't think they want to pay the whole release clause. They would look to stagger it over a number of years to help with their own PSR. So I wouldn't say this is not happening, but I would say it's not going to happen in the next 24 hours. So the clause will expire, and then it will come down to Palace's valuation, which we understand to be in excess of £67 million. I think when he agreed the contract with that clause in it, he would have expected more of the big guns to be at the table. Eberechi Eze, who's linked with Manchester United, and I think they did scout him before deciding on Cunha and Mbeumo in those number 10 positions. Chelsea, obviously in the past, have shown some interest. Tottenham were linked, but that was downplayed by my sources at Spurs. So I think Eze may be a bit disappointed that Arsenal at the moment are the only club in town.
Could be a Palace player for quite some time longer anyway. Okay, all right, we'll have more from Alex Crook very, very shortly. You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Labrix. It's 18+, begambleaware.org.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Hugh, Woozencroft and Alex Crook are with you. Much more still to come as we take you around the biggest transfer news of the day. Now, earlier on the Transfer Insiders, talkSPORT's transfer correspondent Ben Jacobs gave us the latest on Manchester United's prime striker target, Benjamin Sesko.
Yeah, I think there's a fair chance. So myself and Alex yesterday broke the story that Manchester United sent a delegation to Germany to start formal talks. And there's kind of two tactics at play here. You've got Newcastle and Manchester United. Newcastle have gone to Leipzig and essentially said, if your asking price is over 80 million euros, we're prepared to pay it. And I think some of the reason why is because they know they're pre-spending in some senses Alexander Isak money. Manchester United, on the other hand, are trying to get buy-in from the player in the hope that when they go formally to Leipzig, the price will drop because it's clear the player wants Manchester United. And at the moment, it looks like Manchester United are more confident than Newcastle. But of course, you've got to be able to negotiate with Leipzig, and the price didn't drop for Arsenal. Manchester United are banking on the fact that later in the window it will, because Leipzig need to bring in funds. They've not got European football. And again, a bit like Brentford in a strange way. If Xavi Simons went to Chelsea first, Leipzig may stick to their asking price. If a deal gets done for Sesko first, it might be harder to get Xavi Simons for under 70 million euros. There's an element of the intertwined nature of two deals going on, but the first one that gets done will probably be more routine than the second. And at the moment, Manchester United are more confident than Newcastle.
Ben Jacobs there, the latest on Benjamin Sesko. Manchester United have also been linked with Ollie Watkins of Aston Villa. I think that might be 40, 50 million pounds, who knows?
I think Villa wants 60
to
even entertain the idea of a sale.
Would you prefer a Watkins deal to a Sesko deal?
It's a really interesting question, because on one hand you've got a player in Ollie Watkins who's proven in the Premier League, proven at international level with England. We all remember that iconic goal he scored in the semi-finals of the Euros against the Dutch. And on the other hand, you've got someone who's a little bit younger, obviously less experienced no experience in terms of the Premier League, but someone who a lot of observers tell me has a really bright future. He was on Arsenal's list before they signed Victor Gyökeres. Newcastle are trying to get a deal done as a potential Alexander Isak replacement. Those are clearly big boots to fill. Liverpool have looked at him before signing Hugo Ekitike. So probably I'm coming down the side of Sesko, but equally, if it was Ollie Watkins, I wouldn't be overly disappointed, because I think you've got a player there who can come straight in. He can be the number 9 with probably Mbeumo and Cunha in behind. And you've got 3 players at the top end of the pitch established in the Premier League. And that was where United struggled last year. Defensively, all right, the goalkeeper, I think we both agree, needs replacing. But the defence was okay. It was the lack of goals that was a problem. And that is what Ruben Amorim is looking to address.
The only thing I've got an issue with when it comes to the lack of goals is I think people think they look at the numbers of Cunha and Mbeumo at their previous clubs and think that'll just transition immediately into, they'll put the same numbers up in the league, and it isn't that simple.
No, it doesn't always happen.
The tactics haven't been great from Ruben Amorim. There have been some green shoots during pre-season so far. I think a lot of Manchester United fans
I think they've been decent in pre-season. I mean, the Leeds game wasn't great, but the 2 games in the States have been, encouraging.
Okay, we'll see. Mads Hermansen to West Ham United from Leicester City.
Yep, West Ham prioritising a new goalkeeper. I think they were a little bit unsure about Alphonse Areola anyway at the end of last season. He made a real rick in that pre-season game that I'm talking about in New York against Manchester United. Gave away a penalty inside the first few minutes. Obviously, Fabianski has left the club, so they're a bit short in the goalkeeping department anyway. They looked at Suzuki over at Parma, but I think he has his designs on maybe joining a bigger club in the Premier League, probably doing another year over in Serie A. And there is a connection between Mads Hermansen and the recently appointed West Ham goalkeeper coach Kasper Ankergren. He had him at Bromby, so it's no surprise that he is a top target. And we reported earlier today that West Ham have now made a formal approach to Leicester, who are looking for around 25 million.
Let's talk about those two clubs, West Ham and Leicester City. First of all, West Ham, we were talking about a little bit earlier about clubs who are quite disappointed with what they've done so far in the transfer market. I think West Ham United and Graham Potter are one of those clubs right now. Would I have expected more from them? They've obviously lost Mohamed Kudus, who was one of their star players. Again, I think they're a club that has bodies, they need a few more, but is it about revolution for West Ham United? Should they have done a lot more in this transfer window? I'm not sure.
Well, they went big last summer, and I think at the end of the window, when we were asked who are the winners from the transfer window, a lot of us felt like it had been a decent one for West Ham. Fulkrug came in on the back of a good year with Dortmund and a relatively decent Euros off the bench for Germany. You had Jean-Claire Todibo, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think actually Wan-Bissaka worked out quite well, in fairness. Todibo less so. But they spent a lot of that Declan Rice money on signings that haven't paid off. That's why they had to cash in on Mohamed Kudus. That's why they might cash in now on Lucas Paquetá after he's been cleared of those betting allegations. So I don't know about revolution. I'm not sure that's really the way that Graham Potter works, but he needs bodies in the building. I think it's really interesting that he signed a left wing-back in Juth coming in from Slavia Prague. He's got Kyle Walker-Peters as cover for Wan-Bissaka, who can also play on the left-hand side. I think you're going to see a back three from West Ham next season, and that was the formation that they adopted when they went to Arsenal and won in probably the best performance of Potter's tenure.
I'm quite intrigued by whether Graham Potter will be a success.
Me too.
He was kind of respected for playing a great style of football with Brighton, or a very good style of football with Brighton. That got him the job at Chelsea quite clearly. That obviously went quite disastrously wrong from his perspective. I haven't seen much of that at West Ham yet. And looking at their pre-season games, it doesn't look like they're going to be trying to play a great style of football. So there's going to be huge pressure on him from the off, unless he gets the kind of players who can play that style. They just don't look like they're going to be a very entertaining team. Is that necessarily a bad thing? I don't know.
Well, it also didn't go down well when he wished Tottenham luck in the Europa League final last season. A lot of West Ham fans latched onto that and suggested he didn't understand the rivalry between the two London neighbours. The question I would ask about Graham Potter, and obviously he had a big reputation before he got the Brighton job with what he'd done at Östersunds and Swansea as well, and he did do well at Brighton. He sort of laid the foundations for Roberto De Zerbi to come in and take them into Europe for the first time in their history. But did he benefit because of how well set up Brighton are, how well run the club is, how good their recruitment is with Tony Bloom and Paul Barber, etc.? Or was it because of his influence? And I think if you look at what happened at Chelsea, he looked out of his depth there. He hasn't been able to make any kind of impression yet at West Ham. I think he needs to prove himself, and I think he needs to start the season well, otherwise those West Ham fans will be on his back.
And he has brought with him the transfer guru, I can't remember his name, the person that he had at Brighton, who also went to Chelsea.
Kyle McCauley.
That's it, Kyle McCauley has also come to West Ham, right? And yet it doesn't seem like he has had a particularly big impact in that regard either.
Not yet, so but there's still a month for the window to go. Let's see what happens with Paquetá.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. We're having these conversations, albeit only a couple of weeks out from the start of the Premier League season, but we're not going to really know the makeup of squads until we get to September the 1st.
Okay, Transfer Insider is going to be a long show for the next month.
It's been a long summer already for me.
Wolf to Wolves.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, this is probably the most aptly named transfer of the summer. And again, we were getting information as we were on air tonight that Wolverhampton Wanderers have indeed agreed a £10 million deal to sign the Norwegian international left-back David Müller-Wolf. So the Wolf joins the Wolf Pack, and that will be a replacement for Rayan Aït-Nouri, who of course was sold to Manchester City. And we have had some messages tonight from concerned Wolves fans about their lack of activity. They've lost Cunha, they've lost Aït-Nouri. I think Semedo, who did have a contract offer on the table from Wolves, is going over to Turkey now, and one of a number of high-profile players plying his trade in that country. So I think this will be music to the ears of Wolves fans. But again, Aït-Nouri is a difficult player to come in and replace.
Yeah, strangely, if I'm Wolves, I'm just giving Wolf number 10. I don't care if he plays left back or not. We're selling as many Wolf shirts as we can out of the Wolf shop.
Was Cunha number 10 for Wolves?
Possibly, yeah. So if it's available, he's getting it. I don't care. Wolf 10 on the back. That's what you want if you're a Wolves fan. No one's even going to care who the player was. You just go, it's legit. It's legit.
Didn't they have a player called Wolf in the 90s? I'm showing my age there.
Wolves fans, you let us know. 1889.
Sure
was there a Wolf at Wolves?
I'm going to Google that while you're asking me about the next one.
No, there's no more questions.
Oh, is that it?
That is it.
Okay.
So unless you're going to Google it live on the show.
I seem to recall a player called Richard Wolf play for Wolves.
Richard Wolf?
I might be wrong.
Maybe you're right. I can't remember it personally. Wolves fans, let us know. Drop Crookie a message on social media just to confirm or not. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Crookie, for being great company for the past few hours. This has been the Transfer Insiders, the show live tomorrow on radio, YouTube, Smart TV, and the talkSPORT app from 7 p.m. You can catch the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Acast, or wherever you get your podcasts from.